This is a Miami Sports Music Podcast Network production. This is the #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers, let's go.
I know the whole city riding. A little early, it's a bit surprising. Business moves, now we enterprising. Switch it up, now we improvising. Go to get in the winter column. Whole squad been trained to go. Fins for life, we throw the folk. Singing this just to welcome bro. To a time, to a time. Time to grind, time to shine. To a time, to a time. To a time.
What's up, baby? How's everybody doing? What's going on? It is your boy, Stephen D. Want to say good morning to everybody. What is up? It's Thursday. It's Throwback Thursday. Doing big things today. May the 4th be with you. That's all I know. May the 4th be with you. Good morning to my Fins family and my Fin-laws. It is Clock Blockers, the #1 Miami fan morning show, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. It is Thursday. May the 4th be with you. Glad and excited y'all are here today. My name is Stephen Daniels. You can follow me at Stephen D. SKPL. Spread kindness, positivity, and love. Make sure y'all do that. Also follow Miami Sports Music at Miami Sports Music, except on Twitter where we are at MIA Sports Music. On your way in, hit the like button. Hit it. Tap it. Whatever you got to do to it, just make sure that you do it. It's a big deal, okay? Make sure that you hit the like button, okay? Also, hey, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. When you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime the Miami Sports Music goes live, Solo D drops a new song, or we upload a new video, which we always do, which we're starting to. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. We're doing big things over here at Miami Sports Music. Also want to remind you too, hey, look, sign up to become a member today. Become part of the, ready for it, everybody? Family. That's right. Sign up today. Become part of the family. We can't do it without you. We want you to be here. We want you to, tell people about us, and that's what we do, man. We want you to be here this morning. Okay. Make sure y'all do it. Big deal. A lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about. So make sure you guys are here for that. Also, hey, look, if you want to help the channel grow by donating, lots of different ways you can do it. You can use the YouTube live super chat, which is the $ below the bottom of the chat. You guys can click it. You guys can donate using super chat or super stickers. It definitely goes a long way into helping the channel grow. A couple of other ways you can donate. You don't have to use YouTube. You can use Cash App or PayPal, which is $MSM Podcast Network, or use the QR code that's right on your screen, or you can use MSM Podcast Network, or use the QR code that's right on your screen. Well, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Want to give a big shout out to our sponsors of the show, ZSM Sports. ZSM Sports, the #1 place to get your cards, jerseys, balls, and hard-to-find items. Make sure you follow ZSM Sports today, okay? Make sure you give them a follow. Also, Tailgreeter. Download the app today on your current Apple or Android devices. Make sure you guys do that today. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to download the app. So make sure that you guys download it and you guys do that, because at the end of the day, it is the #1 place to get access to tailgates across the country, especially when you come down to Miami and you want to go to the best tailgate. It's East 32 Dolphins Tailgate. So download the app today, Tailgreeter. Once you do that, make sure you put in East 32 Dolphins Tailgate, and you're going to be hanging out with us. You're going to be hanging out with the whole East 32 crew right there. Our sister tailgate 12, East 12 is down there as well. But you're going to be hanging out with us, which is absolutely amazing. We got the podcast there. We got, the setup. We got food. Oh my God, do we have food? Let me tell you, as a big guy, I approve of the food. Okay. It's really good. And, the drinks there, they're really nice drinks. They're very refreshing. We have refreshing beverages there that you will definitely like. Okay. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Refreshing beverages, making sure you're quenching your thirst. Okay. Especially on those hot afternoons at the Hard Rock. It's good stuff. So we definitely want to see you there. Download the app today. It's good stuff. Jose Valdez says, I'm not hitting the like button until I see the direction of today's show is going after the yesterday's nonsense. I'm holding on to my like. It's not Wildin' Out Wednesday today, Jose. Y'all know what yesterday is. I don't know why y'all act surprised when it gets crazy on the show like it did yesterday. Y'all know what happens, okay? Don't act all surprised that yesterday happened the way. Y'all are the ones that wanted Wildin' Out Wednesday. Okay, I started it to see if it was a thing. You guys loved it, and now you want to rescind your likes. Steven, stop choosing violence by besmirching Apple products for cheap pops. Hey, look, man, they do it to themselves. It's too easy. Okay, it's too easy, Cruz. Miami Fit Matthew Finn's talk is in there. Yo, 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 yo. Hey, yo, what's up? What's up, Matthew? Hey, yo. Brr. What does he do in New York? I don't know. I forget what they do in New York. Hey, yo. Expected nothing less. Wilding Out Wednesday is basically event day, Cruz Ruiz says. That's true. Refreshing beverages with sweet iced tea with apple cider vinegar, Crazy Dolphin says. Man's a Chills in the building. Who was the first person? Manalo. Doing a little Espanol was the first in the chat this morning. Good morning, man. Good morning. Hey, it is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. And you know what that means? It is Thursday, which means I got my co-host for the day. None other, ladies and gentlemen, than Mr. East 32 himself, who celebrated a birthday this week. I think he's like 22, 23 at this point. He's a young man, very young man. Very, 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 very young. Mr. Cameron 954 is in the building.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Clock Blockers crew. How are you today? Yes, it's been an adventurous, celebratory week. Not only my birthday, but my daughter's birthday yesterday. Sharing it with Dolph Freaky. Her birthday, shout out to Dolph Freaky, was yesterday as well.
Yep. Happy birthday to my sister from another Mr. Dolph Freaky. I texted her in the morning, and then I called her at night. She didn't pick up. I got a text this morning. She's like, yeah, I had way too much birthday pizza yesterday. By the time you called me, I was eating pizza. I was like, yeah, we'll call it that. Thank you. We'll definitely do that.
My daughter turned 12 yesterday. My daughter turned 12 yesterday too. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I saw the photo online. You guys went somewhere, and I saw the big the birthday cake or the birthday celebration, and everybody was smiling. Looks like you guys had a fun week, man.
Yeah, man. It's always a good time, man. Went to the Cubs Marlins game with my fam on Sunday, celebrate my birthday. And then
we all saw the Cubs this week. I saw the Cubs on Monday in Washington.
Yeah, I know.
And then I saw John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh was in our seats. The University of Michigan football team was in our seats, and we hung out with them and watched the Cubs whoop the Nationals on Monday night. It was me and Crypto. So shout out to Crypto for getting those tickets, man. He asked me if I wanted to go. I was like, yeah, I'll go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, it was dope. So yeah, man, it's funny. You've seen the Cubs a couple times in the last couple of weeks. And I just randomly, the Cubs just happened to be there.
I saw them in Wrigley last Tuesday. It was like 34 degrees. And the only game that they've won since I went to Wrigley was the game you were at in Washington.
See, I maybe I need to go to more games, Cameron. Maybe I need to go to more games. Maybe they'll win.
No, you just stick with your Orioles.
It is May the 4th, man. Are you a big Star Wars fan at all? What? Come on, man. Star Wars is great.
Love Dude, I got more useful things to do with my time than shove a lightsaber up my ass. Listen, seriously.
Star Wars fans out here are gonna get you, man. They're coming for you.
Are you walking down the street in the Chewbacca uniforms?
Are you a Trekkie? Huh?
No, neither, man. Like, come on.
Hey, shout out to Finns Troopers. Finns Troopers are a bunch of guys that dress up as stormtroopers in Dolphins colors over in the UK. They help with I saw this morning on Twitter. This little May the 4th be with you. And I asked them, I said, hey, can I use this for a thumbnail this morning? And they gave me the thumbs up, and it's pretty dope, man. I like it. It's got everybody up there and lightsabers, and it's pretty dope.
That's pretty cool. And listen, for me, like the Star Wars, the whole franchise has been diluted, and it's not the same. Like the Star Wars 1 was epic, and it was a classic. Star Wars 2, Return of the Jedi was, those were all good movies. But everything since, man, to me is just watered down garbage.
Whatever, man. Mandalorian show is fire. I agree, Manza. Trade Cameron to the Commanders. I'm not mad at it. Talking all this crap, man. Hey, man, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show. A lot to get into this morning. We're going to talk some Panthers hockey. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball. We're just going to talk baseball, period. A lot of cool stuff that's happened in baseball over the last couple of weeks. And
yeah, man.
Do it. And at 10:30 this morning, we are going to have from Locked On Heat. We've had a lot of people from the Locked On family over the last couple of weeks. Alex Dono, Kyle Krabs, and now we got Wes Goldberg. I'm trying to get the fourth. I'm trying to get the Locked On Panthers Armando on, and hopefully I'll get him on sometime next week. But shout out to the Locked On crew. Locked On family's been pretty cool with me. But Wes Goldberg's coming on today at 10:30 to talk some Miami Heat basketball. So I'm pretty excited and stoked to bring on Wes Goldberg of the Locked On family. And so it'll be good. Be a lot of fun today. That's where I wore my Miami Heat hat. I appreciate you sending me more stuff about LeBron, though, as you always do. We already know.
I didn't this week.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I didn't today yet. Yeah.
You didn't today yet. Caslin says, Cubs suck. Let's go, Las Vegas A's.
Did you see that in Oakland last night? In Oakland,
2,500 fans.
Like pathetic. And ownership doesn't even care.
You don't.
Like fans
do not care.
Fans had big banners saying sell the team, sell the team, sell the team. And
yeah, they're not selling. They're about to move to Vegas. Are you kidding me?
They didn't even make them take the banners down, which is hilarious.
They don't care. And here's the sad part. They're there for at least another year. This isn't even their last year there. They got one more year in Oakland. At least. Because it's going to take at least 18 to 24 months to build a stadium in Vegas. How long do you think it's going to take to build a stadium there?
I don't know, man.
It took them a long time to build the Death Star. Speaking of Star Wars, it took them a long time to build the Death Star, which is where the Vegas Raiders play over there. It took them like 2.5 years, I feel like. Cruz Ruiz said the A's are a city ho. First Philly, then KC, then Oakland, now Vegas. They finally fit in somewhere.
City ho.
They date a city for a couple of decades, and then they move on to the next. We're getting tired of this. We're moving on. They were the Philadelphia Athletics, then the Kansas City Athletics, then the Oakland Athletics, and now they're going to be the Vegas Athletics.
That's correct.
They totally are. Opens in 2027. So they're going to play in that dump for the next 3. Yeah, all right. I know it's not Hot Take Tuesday, but Oakland is not going to want any parts of this, and they're going to force out the city of Oakland and the Oakland Coliseum will force the Athletics out early, and they will play 1 or 2 years somewhere else before they get to Vegas.
There's a really good stadium in Vegas already, a baseball stadium where one of the AAA franchises plays. I can't remember who, but it's a beautiful
stadium.
The Las
Vegas 51s, they used to be called. I don't know what they're called now.
I don't know.
They used to be called the Las Vegas 51s, and then I think New Orleans are the Zephyrs. I used to know a lot of like the minor league teams, but man, I'm pretty sure Vegas is not, or Oakland's not going to put up with it. But yeah, 2,000 fans. Yeah, it's sad, and it's going to be like that for at least the next year, man. And I feel bad for Oakland because here's the thing about Oakland. They've lost their football team to Vegas. The Golden State Warriors played there for years, and then Golden State built a new arena in San Francisco, so they lost the Warriors, and now they're losing the Athletics. So in the last 5 years, the city of Oakland has lost a professional or a Major League Baseball, or they're about to lose a Major League Baseball team, an NFL football team, and an NBA basketball team. The only thing that they're missing is a hockey team. That they never had one to begin with in the first place. So can't lose that. Can't lose something you never had.
It's the Las Vegas Aviators, by the way.
Las Vegas Aviators.
And that place houses 10,000 fans, man. Like, it's plenty of room for a season.
I'm telling you right now, I'm pretty convinced Oakland's going to force them out before their contract is up, before that new stadium's up. And I have a feeling what they will do is Montreal will probably request to have them for a year or two. Hey, we'll host the team for a year. It'll be the Montreal Athletics for a year, and Montreal will get the Athletics. That's my hot take for the day. Mark my words, it'll happen. It will happen.
More like cold diarrhea.
All right, man. Let's talk. Let's stay in the world of baseball, man. A lot of stuff went on over the weekend. There's a big Miami Dolphins fan that works for Barstool Sports, Frank the Tank.
Man,
Okay.
did you see my comment on his shit this
That's
morning?
why I'm bringing it up. So Frank the Tank, for those of you who don't know, he's been on with Nikki Smokes before. Shout out to the Smoke Show and Nikki Smokes. He's a big Mets fan. And this guy has classic meltdowns on. I mean, that's part of his, thing. That's part of Frank the Tank. But he's a big Mets fan, and he is losing his mind. And he lost his mind on social media yesterday. The Tigers won 8-1 over the Mets. Talk about that real quick with Frank the Tank, but just fans in general losing their minds in the month of May when baseball's a 5-month season.
Well, I mean, we went back to it's kind of his shtick, right? Like it's his thing. It's like everyone. He's like the grumpy old man in the bottom of the basement. Barstool goes to him to get the infuriated fan take because he's such a Mets homer, and for some reason he's a Dolphins fan and wears his Merino jersey under his Mets jersey.
He does,
But that guy he's an aneurysm waiting to happen, and that's what I said this morning. Like, that guy is going to have a full-blown heart attack on film one of these days. But, back to his take, he's just a frustrated, Mets fan. And I kind of get it. They pump themselves up in the offseason because they have all these free agent signings and the expectation's so great. And then Scherzer gets bounced. He comes back and shits the bed in Detroit, of all places.
He does.
The team's injured and not consistently hitting. The only guy hitting is Alfonso right now. But it's May, right? It's May 3rd, and they play in the National League East. And truthfully, the Braves have the best record in the National League East, but none of the other teams are really running away with it, and neither the Braves. And the Braves are injured too. So, I mean, I hate the Mets. As much as I hate the Mets, you got to chill, man. It's May 3rd. They're going to turn around. There's so many veterans on that team. They're going to turn it around.
Noob says, I'll never understand getting that mad over a sports team losing. Maybe 108 years of Cubs baseball hardened me.
You and me both, Noob, and you know that. I'm like, you're just chill with it until September comes and you realize, oh man, I'm 12 games back. It's another shitty offseason I'm looking at. But you don't really worry about it until then. Kind of just see how the team's playing out.
Let's get into some of the standings and just surprises so far a month into the season. We'll start out in the AL and then we'll finish with the NL East because that's where the Marlins are. We obviously want to talk some Marlins. Starting the AL East, no surprise with Tampa Bay, 25-6. They're just, in my opinion, they're the best team in baseball, and it's not even close. I know that.
It kind of is close. I'll talk about that here in a second.
I know some of the standings will show that, but I just think all around pitching, starting, closing, hitting, swag, just everything about that team is great. And it's, if you're a Tampa Bay Rays fan right now, you're loving life. And close second, which I did not expect. I live here in Baltimore.
Third best record in the major leagues. And I'll tell you why. The third best record, and you know who has a second?
I was about to look. You just tell
Pittsburgh.
Me. Wow. We'll get into the National League here in a second, but the Orioles sitting
my point is
20-10.
My point in saying that is that the Orioles have really good starting pitching. They have young athletic hitters that are multi-positional. They're getting really solid pitching from the back end of the rotation, namely Kyle Gibson. They have probably the best catcher, if not, top 3 catcher in terms of hitting.
Love that guy. Love him.
He's
there's a lot to like about Baltimore right now.
Everyone wanted to trade Mullins, the past 2 years, and that guy is the bedrock of the team.
He's the
they're exciting. They're exciting. They're fun to watch, and they're built to last.
I did so let me just explain something. So Baltimore has done something. All right. So rebuilding in Major League Baseball is totally different than any other sport. With the exception of last year, The 3 years prior, 4 years ago, they had a fire sale. They had Manny Machado. They had a lot of different people. They ended up getting rid of Manny in a big trade, 5 players for 1. And they had a lot of assets, and they just ended up getting rid of everybody. Buck Showalter ended up being let go, and they brought in a totally different new regime to just rebuild the team from scratch, from the ground up. And part of Major League Baseball, at least that I've always seen, is okay, there's teams that can do it that way, but the Orioles have never been one of them. And in baseball, most times you're going to win if you have the most money. Go look at, i.e., the Yankees and the Red Sox and all these big market teams. But for the last 3 years, the Baltimore Orioles have had the best minor league baseball system in all of America. They keep on drafting people. They kept on getting these young talents in these big trades from the assets that they had. And next thing you know, 2.5 years in, 3 years in, some of these players are already ready to go in Major League Baseball. And so last year we saw a glimpse of it for a little bit in August and September. And now we're really getting to see it. And by the way, they were loyal to their manager, Brandon Hyde, who had 3 losing seasons of 100 games or more. Last year ended up being okay, and they kept him this year. So talk about a team that I have to admit I was pissed off for 3 years as a fan. Nobody wants to lose 100 games. Who wants to watch their baseball team lose 100 games? And now they're sitting here and they're 20-10, third best team in Major League Baseball, and have some of the hottest hitters in the game and most fun people in the game. Adley Rutschman is fun to watch. Say what you want. The kid is fun to watch. And Cedric Mullins is too.
Well, so, I mean, going back to your Stephen, going back to your original statement, they're building the right way. And you take a look at those top 3 teams. They're all low payroll teams: Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. All right. But they've built around a nucleus of young talent. They've fostered them through their minor league system. And it all comes down to proper scouting and drafting. And all 3 of these teams have done it the right way. They haven't done it necessarily through trades. Although Tampa Bay has a couple other, a couple guys that they did acquire through trades, but mostly it's homegrown talent, right? And
here's the best part about the Orioles. The Orioles got the number 1 overall draft pick last year, and they got Matt Holliday's son, Jackson Holliday, I believe.
Yeah. And the kid he'll be up in the bigs next year.
He could be up in the majors this year. He raked for 2 weeks in Delmarva, low single A. He's in Aberdeen, which is in my county right now. Like, I can go see him play. I think I'm going to this week. And he'll probably be in Bowie, which is the AA team, probably in the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
So that really underscores my point in saying that they scout and draft, players very well that can matriculate to the bigs within their window of control. And that's very important, right? And you see it in pro football too. You draft rookies that can contribute right away. You do the same in Major League Baseball. You try to get, college players or high school players that have exceptional athletic abilities and traits that can get through the minor league system into your major leagues, within a 2 to 3 year time period. And that's what, both the Bucks and Orioles and Tampa Bay do very well.
Real quick, just because you brought it up, and I think it's prevalent here, we're having the conversation about minor leagues and bringing them up to the majors. We'll finish our baseball talk here in a second. But I think this is a good segue real quick. Just a side conversation let's just quickly have. The XFL made an agreement with the NFL this past year and basically said that, hey, look, we'll test, stuff out here in the XFL. If you guys want us to test stuff out, you guys help us with some money issues that we might have. And in return, we'll also be able to feed you players if you need. So the XFL and the NFL made good on that yesterday by 10 players from the XFL getting pro camp invites, including with the Miami Dolphins, the defensive end from the St. Louis Battlehawks, Freedom, and I cannot pronounce his last name, and I'm not going to try to do it, but he is a defensive end, and he got a Miami Dolphins camp invite. Just quickly, what do you think about the XFL players getting, some NFL camp invites?
I think it's awesome. You want to give opportunity to those players who deserve it, and the XFL is smart in marketing and in making an agreement with the NFL, because let's be honest, how many leagues, secondary professional football leagues have we seen in the past 10 years, 20 years, go flat on their face after a year or two because they cannot compete with the NFL. So, you're better off being a feeder system and being, recognized as a secondary system. And maybe you create a little fan interest that way too. Hey, these guys, are could have the opportunity to play, in the NFL, or at least have an opportunity to try out, and you create fan interest that way if you're the XFL.
How does the XFL succeed being a feeder league to the NFL? Because ultimately, I think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, just the way I said, it's all about the exposure, the television deal, playing a brand of football that's exciting. So they open up the game a little bit more, and that's about it. But they're not going to have the star power. You're not going to see the Aaron Rodgers of the world or the Patrick Mahomes of the world, in the XFL, which honestly attracts viewership and fandom to a team, right? You've got stars and you want to go see the stars play. So you really got to, if you're the XFL, you're appealing to kind of the football diehard, right? It's a brand of football that's exciting to watch, but with, players that you're not familiar with in a time of the year that NFL is kind of dormant.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, real quick, just a side note. Do you think in the next year or two, the USFL and the XFL merge? It makes no sense to have two leagues going on or pretty much back to back.
As long as Antonio Brown's not an owner of one of them.
Oh,
that guy, seriously, it's bad news.
He messed over some people in Albany.
Oh my God! Just not messed him over. That guy's off his rocker. How he ever got control partnership of a franchise is beyond me to begin with. But
to be fair, in arena football, I was a former team president of an arena football AFL2 team, and I was only there for 2.5 months because the owner was a con man. Never knew this, and so I tell people all the time in semi-pro football, it's very easy to make yourself out to be somebody that you're not. If you look the part and or have the money, or allegedly have the money, and that's what happened with the Antonio Brown situation. It happens all the time in semi-pro football.
But he's locked out his coaches. He's locked out his players. He's not paying for their hotel bills. It's just bad look, right? It's another, to me, perception wise, it's another black eye for Antonio Brown, which he doesn't need any,
he doesn't need any more of those.
More negative publicity. Let's leave it at that before I get myself in trouble.
All right, let's go back to go ahead.
Yeah, going back to baseball, we were talking about the Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays, or whatever they're called. But I do want to highlight Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani over in the Los Angeles Angels. Here's the thing. So Shohei Ohtani is the best player in the game. And it's not even close, in my opinion. The man pitches. He's a Cy Young Award pitcher. He can hit with the best of them. He led the American League in home runs last year. The kid is awesome, but also plays with essentially maybe the next best player in Major League Baseball in Mike Trout. And this Angels team is only 3 games above 500. And I don't think they've won a playoff series at all since those two have been together. And it looks
they're playing some good baseball. And again, it's only May, but you see signs of them being a better team this year. They have some better starting pitching. It's unfortunate their rookie star catcher tore his labrum in his shoulder. He was off to a good start, and that hurt the team. But they're playing some good ball. But going back to Shohei, 2 things. He joins Babe Ruth as the only 2 players in Major League history with 500 strikeouts and 100 home runs. And he's also the first, or he's the fastest player to 500 strikeouts, and it's not even close, doing it in 389 innings.
Is he? This is a stupid question, but I have to ask: Is he a Hall of Famer already?
Without a doubt.
I believe he is.
Without a doubt. What he's doing is unprecedented. And Major League Baseball Network did a cool thing yesterday about Shohei. And the reason I bring it up is people don't realize he pitches righty, right? And bats lefty. And so when you bat lefty, your throwing arm, right, is exposed to the pitch. He's been hit so many times on that right arm, his pitching arm, and going back out there and pitched. And there's not a human being that's able to do that. Sure, he wears all types of armor, but that armor only deflects the ball. It still hurts like hell.
Yeah.
And he's going out there and pitching.
If y'all, I know a lot of you, some of you are not big baseball fans, but if you do get a chance to go or to watch, if the Angels are on TV, stop and watch. It's worth your time to watch that guy.
And the guy, for his size and athletic ability, he's one of the fastest players in Major League Baseball too. And to watch him go from first to third, second to home is pretty amazing for a guy his size.
Hey, to stay in the American League, three teams I just want to discuss that are surprising, that are kind of either in last place or right next to last place in their division. The Red Sox and Yankees sitting at the bottom of the AL East, and the Mariners. I want the Mariners. They got a young, awesome guy up there, and there's just a lot to like about that. Julio Rodriguez, the center fielder, and I want them to be a good team because I want Seattle to be exciting to watch again, but they're not. And so I just wanted you to briefly talk about the Red Sox, Yankees, and Mariners.
Red Sox are playing better of late. They've won some games in dramatic fashion. I think they had a walk-off again last night. Again, May 4th, May 3rd, whatever it is, May 4th, I'm not too worried about the Red Sox. There's too much talent on that team for them not to be good. Seattle, on the other hand, doesn't have a really as much talent as a team like Boston or even the Angels. Mm-hmm. And the talent they do have is underperforming or injured. Like Rodriguez is not performing to the standards he set last year. And their big free agent signing from 2 years ago, the stud Robbie Ray pitcher, he just today announced going under Tommy John surgery. So he's gone, and the rest of the rotation is kind of weak.
Julio Rodriguez, I don't think will last in Seattle if it keeps up like this. We'll have to see, though. Caslin 143 before we get to the National League. Speaking of second chances, do you think Trevor Bauer will get another chance in Major League Baseball after his stint in Japan? So Trevor Bauer's got a channel. He's got his own YouTube channel. And I watch it all the time. Big fan of Trevor Bauer's YouTube channel. All of the charges against him were dismissed and thrown out. Every last one of them. So he has nothing against him in any court. Because the prosecuting, the DA, didn't find enough evidence to support the claim of the alleged accusers. And he vehemently denies it. His manager, his agent, is a female and has said straight up and down, hey, look, he's innocent. I'm not going to say yes or no whether these ladies are saying the truth or not. What I will say is this. I think Trevor Bauer is a good guy. He's a hell of a pitcher, and he was trying to – but part of the issue and everything that happened with him, it was an excuse for Major League Baseball to get rid of somebody that they weren't happy with in the first place. He went against the grain. Major League Baseball for years have these unwritten rules about how the game should be marketed and how the game should be presented. And Trevor Bauer was kind of the first to break that barrier by having his own YouTube channel, putting in cameras and giving access to things that we never had access to before, and was breaking the mold. He saw what market, and here's the messed up part about it all. Major League Baseball did not, they still to this day are screwing up in their marketing department. Xavier Scruggs, who's been on the show before, in my opinion, one of the best people marketing the game right now. But you don't see him anywhere. You see him on Major League Baseball Network in the afternoons on a great show, but Major League Baseball doesn't pump that up.
Well, Major League Baseball, it's not their place to pump it up. Xavier Scruggs works for Major League Baseball Network, the entertainment side of things. If he doesn't work for Major League Baseball.
No,
and
but
secondly, he works for Apple, and he is the primetime broadcaster on Apple now. And that's by his own choosing. And I love X. I mean, love X, love his content, but Major League Baseball's place isn't entertainment personalities. Their entertainment personalities are on the field.
They lost an entire generation of fans because they didn't market the game, Cameron.
Listen, that's your opinion. I beg to differ. The fact that we're talking about it and everybody in the chat identifies with what we're talking about tells you differently. They go about it differently than NFL. They go about it differently than NBA. It doesn't mean that it's not working, right? So Major League Baseball is a lot more regionalized than the other sports.
That's fair,
right?
That's fair. I'll give you that.
And I'll use this as an example. Most major market teams have their own regional television deals, right? Yep. That generate revenue for those teams. And that's
why the Yankees are allegedly worth $9 billion because of the
100%. So you just proved my point right there. Like, they don't need the MLB umbrella, the Yankees don't, because they do such a good job marketing on their own. And that is exactly the model MLB baseball has. And it's a top heavy model for sure, because the top teams drive the revenue in the league. That's
Red Sox have NESN, Yankees have
right.
Yes. But there's 19 teams that have the Bally Sports Network, including the Miami Marlins, and they filed for bankruptcy in the last 30 days.
Doesn't mean so that's a whole other issue. It doesn't mean that they're going bankrupt. They filed for bankruptcy protection. Two different things. But secondly, my point is that and those 19, mid to low market teams are carried by the large market teams through revenue sharing. Yeah. And that's how MLB baseball helps the smaller market teams,
Kansas City, Baltimore,
stay competitive, right?
Yep.
And that's why this year, through the first month of the season, the standings are such an anomaly, because you've got small market teams dominating the game in such a grand fashion. It's not like Baltimore and Tampa Bay and the Pittsburgh Pirates are like a half game ahead of the Yankees. It's May 3rd, and Tampa Bay is already 8.5 games further along than the Yankees. Yep. 6.5 further along than Boston. And being that far back this quickly doesn't make for a tough summer.
It's going to make for a tough summer for those franchises.
Correct. Yeah. So anyway,
ultimately, before we get to the National League, just to answer his question, do you think Trevor Bauer will get a second chance?
I hope so. He deserves it. I love Trevor Bauer. I'm a big fan of his. Not to mention, he's one of the best pitchers in Major League or in baseball, period. And going back to his Cleveland days, to your point, he did a lot of things unconventionally against the grain, in terms of keeping himself healthy, the way he analyzed the baseball. I liken him to Bryson DeChambeau, right?
Yeah.
Bryson DeChambeau is way outside of the box in how he approaches the game. So is Trevor Bauer. And it kind of goes against the grain of the traditionalists.
Bryce is not as outspoken as
well, he used to be. He used to be, but golf is a much, much different dynamic culturally than Major League Baseball. And I'll leave it at that before getting into a can of worms. But
I think I think the LIV tournament is totally. I think that. Here's the thing. Forget the politics of LIV for a second, but the way LIV is marketing compared to what the PGA is doing. I watch the Masters. I love the Masters, but I really don't watch any other golf. But I've watched some LIV events, and they look fun. I watched what's the one in Phoenix, the Waste Management. We've talked about that. That looks like a good time.
That's a PGA event.
That's a PGA event. But every LIV event looks like a Waste Management event.
So let's talk about that, because do you really want every tournament looking like a LIV event?
I've seen Happy Gilmore. I know how it works out. Okay. Works out well. All right.
So you got to understand where the money comes from in marketing, right? It's not the millennials right now.
No.
It's not Gen Z, especially when you're talking golf. Like you want to know the Champions Tour is so successful because of who they market towards, who they're catering, who their fan base is. And it's not the guys, playing the Bitcoin game. It's not at all.
Well, I think we're going to see just a real quick side note about golf real quick. Tiger Woods' caddy is, taking another full-time position.
Well, maybe. There's a reason, the reason why?
Because I think Tiger's done.
Tiger in Augusta on Saturday, he didn't come out for Sunday's round because he pushed a screw right through the skin of his bone and through the skin. So he was hobbling around and playing with a screw that came misplaced. That man is a beast. I don't care. And it's crazy. So he's not going to play the rest of this year. And so you can't, the caddy's got to eat,
Yep. Very interesting. All right, real quick, just to go back to the National League. Braves, Mets, Marlins. Marlins 5 games back, sitting in 3rd place. Mets are tied with them. It's funny, the Mets and the Marlins are being looked at totally differently because I believe the expectations of both teams were different, but they have the same record. They're sitting at 16 and 15, but the Marlins look like, hey, they're exciting. They can make a run at this thing. But if you're a Mets fan, you're like, they suck. They're horrible. Why is it that teams with 2 records in the same division have 2 different outlooks?
Well, it's expectation. I mean, I want to say the Mets are like $330 million payroll, and
they are.
And the Marlins are what, 80, 70, something like that. I don't even know. But the expectation is much different. So, and I can't even say that the Marlins are overachieving, because if you watch last night's game, you wouldn't say that. But if you take out any of the games that they've played against the Braves, the Marlins would be, 8 games, I think, above 500. Right now, they're 1 because they've won 2 games all season against the Braves, and you just can't expect to win the National League East if you can't beat the best team in the East. That said, the Marlins have every opportunity to be a wild card team this year because of the balanced schedule now. They play a lot less games against the Braves is what I'm talking about. After today's game, 1:00 game, the Marlins and Braves, they don't play again. They play 1 series, 3-game series in July, and not again until 3 games in September. So they only have 6 more games remaining against the Braves.
A big part of that is balanced scheduling now.
Well, that's what I just said.
Teams used to play how many games a year between each other?
I think it was 16, and now they're down to 12.
Yeah.
And so that's going to play in favor of the Marlins, and you're already seeing it. Like I said, they'd be 8 games above 500 if it weren't for the Braves playing the Braves.
You're 100% correct. What do you think the Marlins need to do? Just keep chugging along. Just see let's see how the next month plays out for Miami.
Man, listen, they're the worst team in scoring runs per game in the league. In the National League East, they're the worst. They're 3rd worst in Major League Baseball in runs per game. They're like scoring 2.58 per game.
But they're still winning games.
So let me finish. Their starting pitching, 3/5 of it is injured. Cueto went down. Rogers, who knows when he's coming back. And Sandy Alcantara is a shell of himself so far this season.
Yeah, not what he looked like last year.
They're 1-5 in his starts, and he's your ace. But they're still winning games. So it's defense, it's timely hitting. I guess you're scratching out runs when you need it and base running. You've got Jazz playing center field, learning on the fly. You've got zero output from your 2 big free agent signings from 2 years ago in Soler and Avi Garcia. Those guys are hot trash. You would trade them and hope to get a bag of baseballs back for them.
You're not wrong.
But my point is that the investments they did make haven't even panned out, and they're still winning. So if Soler or Avi or one of those 2 guys can, maybe get back on track, this team could be good. And you got Joey Wendell, who's sucked ever since he's come here from Tampa, coming back to the team this week. So we'll see how it plays out.
Here's what I think as far as the Miami Marlins are concerned. When it comes down to it, I think the Marlins, let's see how the next 30 to 45 days kind of looks. And if in the next month and a half they're still, 5 to 7 games back, then I say, okay, where's their injuries at that point? And what are some teams that are completely out of it that have bats that they might be able to go get? So if you're a Marlins fan, let's just see how the next 45 days plays out.
So listen, they finished April 16-13. If you would have said, and they had the hardest schedule in all of Major League Baseball, the Marlins did, and they finished 3 games above 500, through April. If you would have said that beginning of the season, and I, for one, and everyone in Marlins, if you were going to, the goal was to play 500 ball, right? And they got it through at 16-13. So that's exciting for this team. And month of May, they have, technically an easier schedule. So, the opportunity for the Marlins to really make some noise is there in front of them. And to your point, they're definitely going to be adding some bats, even if they're around 500 or a few games above 500 at the end of May.
I agree. I totally agree. Let's finish up with the NL Central and the NL West. NL Central, your Cubbies sitting at 15-15, 4.5 games out. They started off a little hot. They've had, they're 3-7 in their last 10, and they're 500 at home and they're 500 away. So they're not necessarily good at home. They're not necessarily good away. But the Pirates, who nobody thought would be that great, are sitting with a record of 20-11, 9 games above 500, and they've got a commanding lead in this, NL Central. The Brewers are right there too at 18-12. 1.5 games out. What do you think? And by the way, color commentaries, Cardinals are in last place at 10-21. Color, if you're listening, they're in last.
Hey, Color, no offense, but shit on the Cardinals. The more they lose, the better we all are as baseball fans. Real quick, Mansa asked, where the hell is Sixto Sanchez at? He's starting to throw, and he's it's on a slow roll program. If he continues to do well, the expectation for Sixto is to join the team sometime in the summer. I'd say July. But going back to the National League Central, I think it's the Brewers division to lose. Pittsburgh probably will come back down to earth a little bit just due to their age. But it'll be exciting to see them continue to play good ball. The Cubs are an average team. They're buoyed by, some efforts that, aren't sustainable, namely, Bellinger. He's come alive this year and resurrected his career. He's making himself a lot of money. Nico Horner is a star. He had a 26-game hit streak that just ended yesterday.
I was hoping Boom Boom Mancini would resurrect his career there. It doesn't look like it.
Nah, Mancini's, I think he's washed.
Yeah, me too.
But
I love him.
Swanson has been every bit as good as advertised. He's going to start hitting when the warms up there in Wrigley. The Cubs are going to still sit around 500 and tantalize this. But I will say this about the Cubs: they've got some really young, great starting pitching with Justin Steele. He is amazing, one of the best left-handers in all of baseball. And they've got 2 players that they're going to call up. Matt Mervis, who's going to take in for Hosmer, because Hosmer's been hot trash, and Christopher Morel, utility guy that plays every infield position and the outfield, but he's got the highest OBP and batting average in all of professional baseball this year. So we'll see.
We'll have to see. All right, in the NL West. Not a surprise there in my eyes. The Dodgers sitting at 19-13, and the Padres with their, Juan Soto and Manny Machado and everybody else that they have, Fernando Tatis Jr. coming back, sitting at, 2 games above 500 and 2 games out of first. What do you think about the NL West and Dodgers and Padres, right? Like, I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to be able to keep up with what they've done in the first month of the year.
Diamondbacks are another young team that's got a lot of toolsy players that are young and finding their way, through the major league game, and they're exciting to watch. That said, watching the Dodgers game yesterday, and Muncy has resurrected his career, hit that walk-off bomb against Kimbrel in Philadelphia yesterday. It was exciting to watch. I think it's still the Dodgers and the Padres, and then everybody else. The Padres have really underwhelmed. Soto is. I think he's struck out more times than he's gotten hits this year. what's his name it just came back and is playing right field. The only player that's really lived up to the expectations on the Padres this year is Xander Bogaerts, who came over from Boston. That's just killing the ball.
I'm going to be in Philadelphia on Saturday. I might go see. I just saw the Red Sox are going to be in Philadelphia. I might go see.
You should go see it, man.
I might do that. All right. So ultimately, for the baseball fans, just to wrap up the baseball talk, what should we look out for in the next 30 days? What are some big things that should happen in the next 30 days in Major League Baseball?
You want to see the teams that have the expectations to be at the top kind of make moves going into June, like the Yankees and the Mets and the Padres and, these teams with the big payrolls and the star players cannot, be underachieving through the month of May.
I would definitely have to agree with you on that. All right. So, hey, look, if you want more Major League Baseball talk, we are going to start doing that here on Throwback Thursdays. Cameron 954 from East 32 Dolphins Tailgate. Myself, Stephen D., host of Clock Blockers. We love some baseball. If you ever have questions or want us to answer it, send us a DM and we'll put it up on the show at Stephen D. SKPL at East 32 Dolphins Tailgate or at MIA Sports Music on Twitter, because we love baseball, Cameron and I, and we definitely want to talk more of it. So on Thursdays, if you want to get your baseball fix in, come here in the mornings. And the first thing we will always talk about on Thursdays is baseball. So hopefully you guys will keep up with that and keep on coming back for some more baseball talk. All right. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show. It is 10:20. In about 10 minutes, we're going to have Wes Goldberg on from Locked On Heat to talk some Miami Heat basketball. So we're not going to quite get into the basketball yet.
Hockey.
And, let's get into the hockey, man. Florida Panthers winning 4-2 in Game 1 against the Toronto Maple Leafs, man. Last couple of years, the Panthers have been some of the best teams in all of the NHL. And this year they
were the best team.
Yep.
They were the President's Trophy.
They won the President's Cup last year, and this year they weren't. This year they struggled to get into the playoffs. They limp into the playoffs, and they beat arguably the best hockey team ever in the regular season. The Boston Bruins, who won the President's Cup this year. By the way, now 11 straight years that a President's Cup team has not won the Stanley Cup. The curse of the President Cup continues. And now it looks like Toronto, who's a good team, the Panthers might have their number. They won 4-2. What is up with the Panthers, Cameron? Why are they doing this? Why are they putting this together? Because they barely limped into the playoffs.
Here's my take on this, man. And the Panthers, all season long, they've underachieved. They added one of the top 3 players in all the NFL, and Keith Chachuk, and cannot pronounce his name. He wanted to come to play for the Panthers, by the way, because he knew this is a winning franchise. They were just coming off the President's Cup, as you said, last year, and they needed an attacking star like him. But they couldn't really put it together and get their game gelling until they really had to, right? This team has been playing playoff-type games since February. They needed to go win 6 in a row or 6 of 7 in the last 7 games, and they did, mind you, behind a rookie, goaltender in the Lion that got him there, and now Bobrovsky's back in net and proving why he was, the best goaltender 3 years ago in all of NHL. The guy has been money, and so you fast forward it. They get into the playoffs, and everybody in the world, including myself, didn't give the Panthers a chance because Boston just came and whooped everybody's ass in the regular season, the most points ever.
Not only did we not give them a chance, the Panthers were down 3-1 in the series. The series
unbelievable.
It was over. All Boston had to do over 3 games was win one of them, and 2 of them were at home. If
you watched those first 2 games, especially of the Boston and Panthers series, it's without getting too technical, they weren't forechecking, right? They were playing on their heels. They were waiting for the attack and playing compact and not attacking. And then game 4, they just said, screw it. Let's go for it. Let's start attacking. Let's forecheck. Let's forecheck. Put the pressure on them. And then they realized that, and they moved Montour to the forecheck, which has been a phenomenal. Like Brandon Montour has 6 goals through the first series in a game of the NHL playoffs, which is crazy for a defenseman, right? Mm-hmm. And so the Panthers, through that Boston series, they proved to themselves that they are just as good as the Panthers or Toronto. And so when they beat Boston and they went in Toronto with that same mindset, right? Game 7 mindset, they had Toronto on their heels. Like I expect Toronto tonight to come out attacking and really play a better game than they did.
They have to.
Listen, if they get beat again in Toronto, like
Florida's winning that series, and it's not even close.
Correct. And literally, I expect Florida to win this series because I think they're just much more talented, especially on the front.
Is this the team, by the way, is this the team this year that we expected to see last postseason?
We expected it, but didn't understand what an addition Keith Tkachuk was, and now you're realizing it through the playoffs what kind of star he is. He is literally top 3 player in all of NHL.
The kid is good.
He's like what he did on that overtime goal behind the net to get that puck out front.
Unreal,
right? And the only
that's not normal for people who don't watch a lot of hockey. That is not normal. You do not make that play. Like that does not happen.
And listen, and Cat for Life, brought up a good point. They were getting killed on the power play. They were getting killed on the power play all year. But in that final game 7, they won the power plays, and against Toronto the other night, they won the power plays. And they'll have to continue to do that. That's a product of being more aggressive in forechecking. The only I think thing that the Panthers have to get over that Toronto has is their goaltender, Samsonov, I believe his name is incredible.
It is
incredible.
It's really, really good.
It's exciting, bro. It's exciting to watch.
So the Panthers play tonight, 7 p.m. Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. I believe that game is on TNT, if I'm correct, or TBS, because ESPN is carrying the rest of the NBA.
Hey, shout out to NorCal. What's up, Mark Angelo? Good morning.
The Godfather's in the building. You come.
What's up, my brother?
On the day of my Finlaw birthday. Yes, he is the godfather of the Finlaws, Mark Angelo. Y'all give a big shout out to Mark Angelo in here. He said, "Wake and bake, clock blockers, puff, puff, give." Love Mark. That's my guy. Love him.
And I
don't think we would not be the Dolphin fans we are today without Mark Angelo, just so everybody knows. He's former Miami Dolphin fan of the year, too. The original, the OG.
And I think shout out to our man Wade. He's out there, man. What would Shula do?
Yes. Shout out to him.
He's watching, too.
Shout out to Wade. Just hey, Wade, no more gummies, man. No more gummies. Don't ever give me a gummy again, okay? Don't ever do it. I love Wade.
Give it to him all day long, Wade. He's just a rookie.
It was bad. It was so bad.
Hey, one last thing before we move over about hockey. Both of the Western Series games the past 2 nights, I think Dallas had somebody score 4 goals, and the Golden Knights had somebody score 4 goals, and they both lost.
I know. What did Caslin say here?
Oh, he's saying Carey Price is the best goal. Yeah, it could be, man, but Samsonov is right there, man. He's freaking good.
He said Ian Berger's the OG fan of the year. Okay, you were number 2. My bad. I'm sorry.
Big E,
my guy. Big E's been up here. He was up here Friday night with us. He was hanging out. Fan club weekend info is coming soon. East 32 crew. It's going to be good. For my Dolphins fans that are watching, fan club weekend is huge. If you want to go to a game, fan club weekend is the one to go to in Miami, and we'll have more information on that hopefully in the coming weeks. And yeah, that'll be good. Hey, real quick, just to stay in the NHL a little bit longer, Golden Knights, Las Vegas Golden Knights, 6-4 over the Edmonton Oilers last night. the Carolina Hurricanes 5-1 over the New Jersey Devils, and the Seattle Kraken, by the way, still might be the best name in all of in NHL. Love the Seattle Kraken name, and their logo's fire too. They beat the Dallas Stars, who came off a very impressive first round victory. The Stars, 5-4 against the Minnesota Wild. So, any of those teams or series or matchups ring out to you?
Not really. I don't know enough about them, and honestly, I'm just want to watch the Panthers and see them do well. I'm glad the Rangers lost, though.
If the Panthers advance, they're going to be facing the Devils or the Hurricanes. The winner of that. Who do Panther fans want to root for? Do we want to face the Devils? Do we want to face the Hurricanes? 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. It doesn't matter.
Honestly, I think the way the Panthers are skating right now, if they get through Toronto, they'll be the favorites
to win it all. I agree. I would. Hey, look, there's a side of me that would hate the Panthers to go to the West Coast because that means the games might start later for the Stanley Cup Finals. But Seattle versus Florida, that would be pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. The Kraken versus the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals.
And Cap for Life is right. New Jersey Devils have the Panthers number this year. The Hurricanes do, but we'll see. The playoffs are a different thing.
I agree. All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here. The #1 Miami fan morning show, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. We got a great show. We're just waiting for Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat to get on and talk some Miami Heat basketball. So, hey, real quick, Mark Angelo asked me while we're waiting for Wes Goldberg, says, how excited are you, Steven? You have a lot of Fins games up north this year. I'm really excited. For those of you who don't know, from all my Miami Dolphin fans, Miami Sports Music and Tailgreeter are partnering up to bring you the Tailgate tour for Miami Dolphins fans this year. We're going to be taking over Washington, D.C. for the FedEx takeover. We're going to be taking over Philadelphia for the Philly Finvasion. And we're going to be taking over Baltimore for the Baltimore beatdown, just like we did this past year. We had about 125, 150 people this past year in Baltimore. We expect 200, 250 this year. And, Philadelphia and Washington are going to be great. We pretty much have a lot of the stuff worked out. Philadelphia, that's why I'm going up there this Saturday to check out the venues and the hotels that we might be partnering up with and hopefully getting all that set in stone. So I'm hoping that when the schedule comes, by the way, schedule comes out for the NFL this Thursday. So hopefully when that happens, we'll have a lot of the information. We might even do a pre-sale of tickets for that kind of stuff. So it's going to be good. We're going to be doing meet and greets the night before. The Tailgate Tour 23. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be dope. And always remember at Tailgreeter, you can go get this guy right here, Cameron, at East 32 Dolphins Tailgates, the #1 tailgate at Hard Rock. Okay? Don't care what anybody says. Don't let nobody else fool you. You want the best tailgate? Go to Tailgreeter, download the app, type in East 32 Dolphins Tailgate at any Miami Dolphins home game this year, and you're going to be in with the boys. It's going to be good times. Good times. Are you excited this year? Any new things coming up this year for the tailgate this year?
Yeah, we do. We've got some things in the works that cannot announce yet. Maybe a partnership that maybe I told you about, maybe not. That should culminate here by the end of this month, May. That'll have a great effect on
the tailgate,
East 32.
I'm excited.
So we'll see where it goes with that.
Should be a lot of fun. All right, yeah, we're waiting for Wes Goldberg to get up here. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, talking some Miami Heat basketball. If you guys want to ask a question to Wes Goldberg, put it in the chat with a super sticker or a super chat, and we'll try to get that question up here to Wes as soon as he gets on here. We're just waiting for him to get up. So he said,
let's talk about some of these other teams, namely Lakers.
We could talk LeBron. We could talk LeBron real quick.
I said the Lakers.
No, it's LeBron. It's the Los Angeles LeBrons. Okay.
Listen, LeBron cannot continue playing 43 minutes a game. And for that, and
I'm going to tell you right now, this is all about AD, real talk. If Anthony Davis can't sustain what he's done and the roller coaster that is Anthony Davis, which means every other game he plays great and the other games he plays horrible. We need more consistency out of him. But Anthony Davis, when he is on,
he's a game changer.
He might be the best player in basketball. When he's on, that's the problem.
Better than LeBron?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, at this point in his career, Anthony Davis, when he's on, is way better than LeBron.
You hear it here, folks.
Jimmy Butler.
You heard it here, folks.
Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid might be the only two people that might play better than Anthony Davis this postseason so far.
Listen, consistency, right? You need to be consistent and have that level of consistency throughout the playoffs for your team to have a chance. And so far, that's what the Lakers have been doing. Now, do I think they're going to get through Golden State? I really don't. I expect Golden State to come out tonight and play a much better game than they did against the Lakers. But we'll see. You know, like what the Lakers have succeeded in doing is getting production from LeBron and Anthony Davis that is expected, but they've had role players step up. Who's the white guy? You don't even know his name. He's played well. Actually,
Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves has played amazing.
You know, the offense is going through Austin Reeves, which is crazy. Yeah. And then Fox this past game really stepped up and had some key buckets. And Hachimura, whatever.
So Hachimura
is
I am mad that he's not playing more, because if he played more, when he's playing, he makes buckets. He's in. And by the way, his size, I mean, I think he's underrated and could be a really great talent in the NBA. And Washington Wizards never should have gotten rid of him, because that guy is money. He's amazing. He's awesome.
Agreed.
All right. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. We are going to talk some Miami Heat basketball. Super excited. Great series going on. Maybe the best player in the game right now currently in Jimmy Butler. But who should we have on to talk about it? We got to get the Locked On family to talk about it. So without further ado, let me bring on for the first time for Clock Blockers here from Locked On Heat, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wes Goldberg. What's up, Wes?
What's up, guys? How we going?
Pretty good, man.
Good morning, Wes. How are you?
I'm good.
I like the hat. Man. Definitely like the hat.
Yeah, the old Miami Vice, man. That's the way to go.
Hey, I know, man. Hey, #1, thank you for coming on. I've been a big fan of you watching Locked On Heat for a while. Before we get into it, just tell us a little bit about yourself to the listeners who might not know you, and for the ones that do, and tell us a little bit about Locked On Heat.
Sure. I've been covering the NBA for about 10 years now. I covered the Golden State Warriors when I lived in San Francisco. I covered the Heat before that, and now I'm back in Miami covering the Heat again. I'm back on the beat for 2 years now. And Locked On Heat, man, it's a daily Miami Heat show. If you're a Miami Heat fan, it's the best place to go for 30 minutes of Heat content every single morning. Perfect for your morning commute, your run, maybe a little jog on the treadmill, whatever it's going to be. And I think we do the best. I think we do a great job. So it's equal parts analysis, information. Me and my co-host David Ramil grew up Heat fans, so we come from it through that lens too. And it's just a great way to experience being a Miami Heat fan. So that's what we got going on.
I love it, Wes. And for those of you, go listen to Locked On Heat after Clock Blockers, the #1 Miami fan morning show. But yes, big fan of what you're doing in the Locked On family over there. All right, let's get into it, man. The Miami Heat limped into the playoffs, man. They had to play in the play-in series. They limped into that, and then they had to face the #1 seed in the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's just briefly talk about that. The play-in series and beating the #1 team in all of basketball in the Milwaukee Bucks. Tell me a little bit about that, your thoughts and views.
Surprising, and it was unfortunate that Giannis got hurt in game one. I think everybody was looking forward to seeing that series, and obviously the Heat were able to take advantage of that. But I also don't. I think the Heat were just the better team. I don't think that that's something you could chalk up to Giannis getting hurt. The Bucks did not execute. The Heat were more physical. They made their shots in a way that the Milwaukee Bucks did not. And as we know, so often in today's NBA, it just sort of comes down to that. We can overanalyze things all we want, but the Heat shot like 70% in that series. So that you're going to win a lot of games that way.
Yep.
And Wes, speaking of overanalyzing, what do you make of, the dreadful 3-point shooting this team exhibited through the regular season and then coming out in the playoffs and that Bucks series and doing what they did?
Dude, I have no idea. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think it's almost a mental thing where you hear players talk about this all the time, and the Heat talked about it going into these playoffs. Yeah, it's been a frustrating year, but now our record is 0-0, and throw all the old stats out the window. They don't matter anymore. And I always like, that's just like weird, like coach speak, locker room speak. It doesn't really mean anything. But when you also think about 3-point shooting, so much of it is mental, right? Like you have to practice your form and blah, blah, blah. But a lot of it is just mental. A lot of it can be mental, especially if you're going through a slump. And it just felt like that slump just had this like cascading effect across the Heat's roster all season long, and nobody could really get out of it. And I think there might be something too. Okay, we got to have this play-in tournament. We're in the playoffs. We're 0-0. Nothing matters. Brand new season. And just when you think about the mentality of a basketball player, maybe that little refresh that kind of hit the reset button, I think that was helpful. I think it was helpful. And so if you come out in game one against the Milwaukee Bucks and you just shoot the lights out, and I think everybody's sort of looking around after like, hey, are we good at this again all of a sudden? All right, awesome. Let's go. And almost the opposite of that shooting slump where it can be contagious. The same thing could be said for hot shooting, right? The Warriors have experienced this for years, right? You go play with Steph Curry, all of a sudden you're a great 3-point shooter because you're getting a lot of open shots.
Unless your name is Jordan Poole.
That's a whole other thing, dude. That was amazing. Yeah, I think now everybody just has this confidence, right? And it's incredible how that works, even in the face of injuries to Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, now Jimmy Butler missing a game. Like they're still so they didn't shoot great in game 2 against the Knicks, but unlike in the regular season where they would come out and shoot poorly and you'd be like, all right, here we go. It's just going to be like a month of shooting 26% from 3-point range. I don't think that Heat fans and the Heat themselves are feeling like that's going to be the case going into game 3.
I want to briefly touch on the injury bug, but before I do, I just want to stay on this 3-point conversation because last night I'm watching the Sixers Celtics game.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there talking with my wife, and we've watched pretty much every series with the exception of Denver or Phoenix games. We just have not watched them, unfortunately. But I've been watching almost every other game in the NBA, and the number one thing we always discuss, my wife and I, is why do teams feel the need to shoot threes? Because I look at it, and I look at Golden State. Golden State has the ugliest 3-point shots I have ever seen, but they go in. And every team seems to feel like when they're down or, and they could be down by 8 points with 6 minutes left. We need to go for 3. It infuriates me, Wes, that more teams in the NBA don't drive it to the hole more. Why is the NBA fixated on shooting threes over going to the hole more?
I don't know that they're fixated on shooting threes over getting to the basket. They are fixated on shooting threes more than taking 2-pointers from that mid-range area. That is just simple math, right? Like if you shoot, let's say 50% from mid-range, right? Which would be like prime Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant numbers. You're still posting an offensive rating of 100. You're scoring 100 points per 100 possessions. That would be easily the worst offense in the NBA. Even if all of your players were Michael Jordan from mid-range, you would literally have the worst offense in the NBA. That's just analytics, right? And so you want to get to the basket because a good rate at the basket is like 60 to 70%, depending if you're a guard or a big man. And now all of a sudden you're multiplying that. If everybody on your roster is shooting 60% on the basket, that's an offensive rating of 120. Okay. And so that would be the best offense in NBA history. And then from 3-point range, now the math is a little bit different because instead of multiplying by 2, you're multiplying by 3. Okay. And so now you're getting back to like, if you're shooting 30% from 3-point range now, or I'm sorry, 40% from 3-point range, now you will also have the best offense in NBA history. So I think it's just getting to those better spots. The thing is, it's way easier to shoot threes than to get to the basket. There are a lot of players who can't get to the rim for a lot of reasons. Defenses, number one, have identified that players would prefer to get to the basket. And so now every defense, basically 80% of NBA defenses play drop coverage, where they have somebody like Brooke Lopez or Jaren Jackson Jr. or somebody like that just hanging out by the rim. It's like, good luck getting here, man. And so now if you're an opposing player, like, well, they've got this 7-foot defensive monster right in front of their basket. So now I got to just shoot threes in order to get the math to work. Right. And so it's not to say that you don't want to take the mid-range shots. I think you want to put some of those in there in your offense, obviously, and those become even more important in crunch time, in like the last 5 minutes, where you kind of start throwing those stats out the window and you just got to get buckets. But for the big part of the games, like these NBA teams are realizing we've probably got to take 43s a game just to be competitive offensively. And that's why the Heat have even come out and said, we need to take 43s a game, despite having really good mid-range players like Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and obviously Jimmy Butler. So that's just the math. And I think when you kind of look in the aggregate of a season or a series, it is. And it makes sense, because if you don't do it that way, your offense can kind of get in the mud
like that. I never looked at it like that.
But it's a good segue in why the Heat were so successful against Boston, not just at 3-point shooting, but Jimmy Butler specifically, because, as you say, he's one of the best dribble drive guys and best mid-range guys, but he added a 3-point shot in that series that now you have to defend, right? So how important is that moving forward for the Heat?
Jimmy's 3-point shot. I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't do it in the regular season. It's a decent look. He's really flat-footed. It's not even a jump shot. He just kind of stands and shoots.
He does.
It's a stand shot. It's
I was
not a
talking
jump
about that the other night. I was like, this is so weird.
It's so strange, and he's got the slowest friggin' release, and it's the weirdest thing. But teams leave it open. So I don't know. I would like him to shoot. And I even remember going into this season with talking with my co-host on Locked On Heat, like, what if Jimmy just took 3 a game? Just 3 3-pointers. Just 3 open ones. Like, that's it. He doesn't have to be coming up. But then in the playoffs, he's now, like, pulling up in transition and all that stuff. Like, I think those are good looks for him. I think he's actually – I like his form better when he's bringing the ball up himself and pulling up versus, like, catching and shooting off of somebody else's dribble drive. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he waits until the playoffs. I wonder if it's a little bit of baiting the other teams. I also think part of Miami's offense asks him to be the guy that gets into the lane and then kick out to Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and Duncan Robinson. And I think he just really puts it on himself to sort of set the table in that way. And in the playoffs, he's like, all right, enough setting the table. I'm taking over. I'm eating the steak. I'm doing all of this. Let's go.
Well, and now defenses have to worry about closing out on Jimmy, right? Because now he's a threat to pull up, as you said, if he's bringing the ball up. But it also allows him now, because he's got such a quick first step, to get to the hole and dish the Bam or kick it out.
Exactly.
Which is a major reason why I think they beat Milwaukee.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Milwaukee never really started going over on those screens. They basically just let Jimmy shoot them. And there was
him shoot without any really. They didn't contest it at all.
No, and I think that's going to be the game plan for most teams. I think that if they're, because the best, look, great players, you're not going to take everything away. You're just trying to take one thing away. You're trying to take something away. And if what you're going to try to take away from Jimmy Butler is his 3-point shooting, that's stupid, because he's way better at everything else than the 3-point shooting, right? And so you're going to go under on all those screens. You're going to let him shoot, because the worst thing you want to do is close out, like you said, and have him blow right by you, or just hang back and just let him drive, or just let him shoot it. And so I haven't seen teams aggressively close out on that Jimmy 3-pointer yet, and I don't blame them. But if he's making them, man, he's making them. And like I said, like he wants to take that shot in crunch time. We saw that in Game 7 last year. In that instance, you kind of have to contest it. And I'd be interested to see what happens. Like, it kind of feels like we've maybe already seen him set it up almost like a play action in the NFL, right? Where you run, and then you're going to throw it over the top. Like, if there's another game that's like a 2 or a 3-point game, and Jimmy Butler is coming down that left side where he wants, or the right side where he wants to take that shot, like he did in Game 7, like he did against the Milwaukee Bucks and made it. Do teams know that now, that he's going to take that and aggressively close out, and then he just blows right by him and gets to the rack if it's like a 2-point game to tie it? I kind of feel like we might have like had the table set for something like that. It'll just be interesting to see if we ever get a situation like
I believe that we will, and I definitely believe that we will, especially with the teams that we're planning on.
If that happens, clip this and then like just put it out there on Twitter. Like, be like, wow, this guy is a genius.
Well, that's kind of why I asked the question, because you can see it happening.
Is a genius and Nostradamus. There we go. Let's go.
You can see it happening now, because in the big picture of things, the offensive options for this team moving forward as competition gets stiffer is really limited for the Heat, with Hero and Oladipo going down. And really, let's talk about this next. Where's Bam been?
Bam's been on defense. That's where he's been, man. Like, he's just been – his defense in these playoffs have been unbelievable. And I know that people want more from him in terms of scoring. His first 2 games against the Milwaukee Bucks were actually pretty good, and people kind of forget that. But it's been since then that he's been kind of up and down, and then having only 10 shots in a game without Jimmy Butler against the Knicks in game 2. No, he needs to do more than that, right? You need to do more of that, and he owned up to it after the game. But you'd like to see – it's such a hard balance because he's also – sort of the fulcrum of the offense, right? The reason the ball gets from one side of the court to the other in Miami's offense is because Bam Adebayo's in the middle facilitating that, right? Getting it and swinging it from one side to the other. So there's part of the job where it's like, okay, I need to facilitate on offense. But in the fourth quarter, you would have liked them to see, like, just shoot more. Like, it's the Chris Paul, LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas formula. Let me set up my teammates for 3 quarters, and then I take over in the fourth quarter. He took 1 shot in the fourth quarter in game 2. He needs to be better than that. And I just think that that's part of the evolution for him right now, and he's going through it, and it's not a natural thing. It's very, very hard to find and strike that balance of when do I get aggressive and maybe take what would be quote unquote a bad shot, but I'm gonna try to force the issue versus what am I gonna taking what the defense is giving me. It's a hard balance. It's very, very hard. And I think he's sort of in the process of figuring it out.
All right, let me get into the Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo injuries and how they'll play a role moving forward. Because when those injuries occurred, I have to be honest, as a Heat fan, people were like, "Hey, I don't know," because as we all have seen over the last couple of years, Bam somehow disappears in the playoffs sometimes, most times, and it doesn't. But Jimmy Butler. There's a difference, as you said earlier, there's a difference between regular season Jimmy and playoff Jimmy. And playoff Jimmy just takes it to another level. So for some reason, it didn't look like it really affected them at all. Why is the struggle or the injuries of Victor Oladipo or Tyler Hero not hurt the Miami Heat as much as we might thought it would have, especially during, like the regular season?
The Victor Oladipo injury, I'll start with that one because it's easier. It was unfortunate. It sucks. Everybody likes Victor Oladipo. It was hard to watch. I don't think the Heat were ever going to miss him because he just wasn't having that big of an impact on the roster. He's sort of on the fringe of the rotation, kind of a plug and play. Like, okay, we need like an all hands like defensive team on there. Let's put that lineup out there. Let's put Vic in there. And then in terms of Tyler Hero, it's been all Gabe Vincent. Like, he's sort of taken the Tyler Hero role on, right? He's coming off those screens from Bam Adebayo against the drop coverages of Milwaukee and New York, and he's finding those gaps in their defense. He's like, all right, and he's just going to lift up and shoot, right? They just needed somebody to be more aggressive, and when Tyler Hero went down, and Gabe Vincent was really the only guy. Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, they can obviously shoot the ball, but they're not that big of threats off the bounce. Gabe Vincent is, right? And so he was always the guy that made sense as sort of the Tyler Hero replacement. He can't do what Tyler Hero does in terms of the volume and the efficiency. Tyler Hero, I think, is their best scorer, their best shooter. And Gabe Vincent's up there, but we've already started to see some of the drawbacks on that, right? Like, there was only he had a great series against Milwaukee, a really good game 1 against the Knicks. His game 2 against the Knicks was okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't what they needed it to be either. They're going to miss Tyler Hero at some point, and I think we really did start to see that in game 2. But they didn't really miss him against Milwaukee because everybody was shooting so well. When those numbers start to come back down to earth, like we started to see a little bit, that's when you're going to really see them miss Tyler Hero. And I do wonder if this Heat team has a kind of a ceiling on this playoff run without Tyler Hero. That would be the thing that worries me because they need his scoring, right? Like, even in the fourth quarter, if Tyler Hero's there and Jimmy Butler's not, like, Tyler Hero could have taken the Heat home in that game 2, right?
There's
like,
no
that's
doubt
kind of what
about
he's
it.
made for.
I definitely think Tyler Hero would have been perfectly fine, and the Heat would have been perfectly fine against the Knicks in game 2 without Butler.
Exactly. So we're starting to see them miss him now.
Well, let's get into the New York Knicks and Miami Heat rivalry. That is, it's really cool to be playing against them in the playoffs again.
Yeah.
And reviving this rivalry that is the Heat and the Knicks. Tell us a little bit about this series, what we plan to go down, because game 1, the Heat come in. They obviously take care of business, but they score the least amount of points that they've scored in the entire playoffs, but they still playoffs so far, but they still win. And then in game 2, Butler didn't play, right? But we all saw Butler's face at the end of game 2, and he looked like he's about to come in game 3, which is Saturday night, and be a man on the mission. Tell us a little bit about the Heat and Knicks matchup.
Yeah, so on one hand for that game, the game 1 was just a great Heat win. They shot pretty well. They got to their game. They took the Knicks out of their game. Jalen Brunson wasn't as effective as you probably want him to be. But if you're the Knicks, you're like, well, we didn't have Julius Randle. Then the Knicks get Julius Randle in game 2. And the Knicks get to their game plan. They're getting the 3-pointers that they want to get. Jalen Brunson is really effective. He busts Miami's zone that they had to go to without Jimmy Butler. And they out-rebounded the Miami Heat. They kept their turnovers low, and they did in game 1 too. And so if you're the Knicks, you're saying, wow, we got to our game. We executed our game plan. This is how the New York Knicks win games and how they won so many games in the regular season. But if you're a Heat fan, you say, well, we didn't have Jimmy Butler. So now it kind of feels like, okay, you had one game without one of your stars. The Heat had one game without their big star. And now we're going into game 3 with both teams relatively healthy. I know Jalen Brunson and Jimmy are dealing with ankles. Julius Randle looked fine in game 2. I'm not concerned about his health, but both teams relatively healthy for a game 3 in the playoffs in Miami. Series tied 1-1. It feels like these were just sort of warm-ups, and now this series is really going to start.
About to take off.
This thing's about to take off, and that's why. And I think that's what we saw Jimmy Butler nodding about. He's like, okay, here we go. Because if you're the Heat, like we just lost this game by 6, and we didn't have our best player
without Butler.
I don't know that I care so much about the
score. They played against Scott Foster too. Don't forget that. They had to play against Scott Foster as well. All right, let's just throw that in there.
I don't know that the point differential is something that's like transferable from one game to the next. I think that if I'm the Heat, what I'm worried about is we can't let the Knicks get back into their game plan with or without Jimmy Butler, because they are capable of doing it with Jimmy Butler on the court. No doubt. That is a very good basketball team. And Tom Thibodeau is a very good coach. And Eric Spoelstra says this all the time. He's been saying it all playoffs. It's about who blinks first, right? That's what the playoffs are all about. The Heat blinked in game 2. They blinked. In the fourth quarter, they blinked. And then they woke up and the Knicks had won the game. So the Heat need to be very conscientious of not letting the Knicks get to their game plan. You can't just rely on, okay, we only lost by 6 without Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler comes back, we're going to win game 3. Nah, that's not how the playoffs work. They got to be ready.
Cameron?
Yeah, let's talk about Coach Spo and the bench and how he's got this team prepared to play. I mean, D-Rob has been nothing but trash all season. Then he comes in, he plays meaningful minutes. And Strus went down with an injury. D-Rob comes back in. Caleb Martin, we can't talk enough about. And you've got undrafted Hightower playing meaningful minutes. What does that say about Spo and how he's got this team prepared to make this playoff run?
I've been saying this probably for half a decade now. Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA. And I think a lot of coaching, it's X's and O's. I remember like Brad Stevens came in and he's like, wow, these sideline out of bounds plays, they're so cool. Is Brad Stevens the best coach in the NBA? I was like, I don't know that he's the best coach in the NBA. He might be the best at drawing up sideline out of bounds plays. But I don't know. I never thought he was the best. He was a great coach, but I never thought he was the best in the NBA because like 90%, it's like almost like an iceberg, right? Like most of coaching you just don't see. 90% of it, you just don't see it. The fan doesn't see it. Media doesn't see it. You can get a sense of it based on quotes and talking to people and listening to press conferences, but you don't see it. And so much of it is just, it's like setting a culture for your business, for your company. And that's really what Eric Spoelstra, I think, is so good at. And why Udonis Haslem, by the way, has been so important playing that, being willing to be on the end of the bench for the last 6 years. It just sets the tone of, I'm going to say a sports cliche, and I even hate that I'm doing this, but like the next man up thing. I hate that cliche. It's stupid. But there are teams that embrace it, right? And I think the Heat are one of those teams that do. And they say, okay, take the ego, throw it out the window, play your role, do what we ask, and we promise that you'll get rewarded at the end of the day, right? Whether it's Hassan Whiteside, Tyler Johnson, Duncan Robinson, you're getting that contract if you buy in. You're going to get that contract eventually. So I think there's a lot of parts to it. The Heat in general do a good job of scouting players who are going to fit that and bringing them in and have that mentality that they're looking for. And then Eric Spoelstra does a great job. There's a big part of Eric Spoelstra. His come up was not in. I know everybody talks about how he was like the video coordinator, and then but people forget that middle part. He didn't go from video coordinator to head coach. He was in charge of Miami's developmental program, and his first client was Dwayne Wade. All right, he's one of the best developmental coaches in the NBA. Okay, and he has been for a long time, and that's why he's the head coach.
He's the big reason why Dwayne Wade is a Hall of Famer.
And Dwayne Wade would be the first one to tell you that. And so I think he's just really hands-on with these guys and developing them and sort of finding things in their game that fits what it is that Miami's trying to do, right? It's almost like Bill Belichickian in that way, where he just grabs some running back off the scrap heap, and now all of a sudden he's like a third down back and catching passes in a Super Bowl. Like
Right.
and so there's a lot of things that go into it, and I know I'm going long-winded to answer your question, but it's complicated. If it were an easy thing, I think a lot of other coaches would do it. Spo's just got an innate ability to figure it out, connect with his players, and get them to buy in.
Towards the later part of the year, the Miami Heat ended up signing Kevin Love. What is Kevin Love going to be able to help with this team as they go further into the playoffs? Kevin Love having the experience of winning a championship with LeBron. What is Kevin Love going to be able to provide to this Miami Heat team?
So this is almost like the opposite of the question Cameron asked me earlier about like the 3-point, or maybe I don't know, maybe it was you, Steven. I don't know who asked me the question about the.
We all asked great questions, Wes. It was
one
of us
so hard to
people.
keep track of. Yeah, it's no, the 2-pointers versus the 3-pointers conversation, right? Like that's so like because the regular season obviously is a larger sample than the playoffs. The playoffs to me come down to like the little gray areas, like the margins of the game, right? Where can you just like crank out like an extra 4 points? Like where can you just squeeze and wring out like another rebound or another assist or just like 6 points? And we saw that, right? We just saw that with the 3 straight outlet passes that Kevin Love had in game 1, where the Heat should not have scored on those plays probably, right? But he just manufactured out of thin air 6 straight points, right? Boom, outlet pass, boom, outlet pass, boom, outlet pass. And that's where the playoffs are won, to me, are those little margin things. That's the difference. And so when Kevin Love is having a hard time in the regular season because basically the 3-pointer is not working, he's kind of rendered useless, right? He's always been a solid rebounder, always will be a good rebounder because of his size and just natural knack for it. But if he's not shooting threes, you're not a stretch big anymore. And they needed him to be in the regular season. The Cavs needed him to be. They waived him. And then the Heat needed him to be, and he kind of was in and out of the starting lineup. And then the playoffs come around, and all of a sudden that stuff is still important, but those little things are even more important, and that's what he's provided them. It's the same thing it's why Kyle Lowry is all of a sudden a great player again for the Miami Heat coming off the bench. It's that stuff just matters. It's so much more elevated. Draymond Green says this. You got 82 game players and you got 16 game players. And I thought it's one of the best things that Draymond's ever said. I think it's so accurate. And Kevin Love's a 16 game player. Kyle Lowry's a 16 game player. Jimmy Butler is Michael Jordan in the playoffs, apparently. And that's why I think you've seen the Heat have a little bit more confidence in this postseason than in the regular season.
The Miami Heat went to the finals against the Lakers in the bubble. They were 1 game away from the finals last year against the Celtics, and they're obviously making a run right now. What is it about the Heat for the last 3 years or 3 or 4 years that they've been, at the top of the food chain when it comes to the NBA and dominating in the Eastern Conference?
Jimmy Butler. I mean, it just starts there. I think there's an idea out there that like the Heat don't have a guy capable of leading them to a championship, that they don't have like a 1A the way that the Warriors have Steph or the Lakers have LeBron or anything. And Jimmy Butler just every playoffs proves, I don't care about the regular season stats. I'll score 20 a game in the regular season. Don't matter. Playoffs roll around. I'm that guy. I'm just going to be that guy with a capital G again and get ready. And so I think that's the biggest difference is you look in the Eastern Conference in particular. And I think there's questions about the Boston Celtics and their makeup and Jason Tatum and where he kind of goes in those big moments. We've obviously have questions about Joel Embiid and James Harden. I think like before the Brooklyn Nets disintegrated, you kind of had questions about their guys. You never really have that question with Jimmy Butler. He's going to rise up to that moment. And there's not a lot of players that do that, right? There's not a whole lot of players that when the game's on the line, when it really matters, game 7 of a big series, you're going to get a great performance from that player. Maybe his team will win. Maybe his team won't win. But that player is going to step up and show up and have a great game. And Jimmy's just one of those guys. And I think that confidence just exudes from him and spills over to the rest of the roster. And you can hear it being in that locker room. Like you talk to the players and you're like, we got Jimmy, man. We got him. And he's going to lead us to where we got to go. I don't know if they're going to end up winning a championship with Jimmy Butler. It's stiff competition. Who knows what's going to ultimately happen. But I know no team wants to play the Miami Heat. And you just saw them beat the number 1 seed in the Milwaukee Bucks, and who was, a lot of people consider the best player in the NBA, and Giannis. And he was the best player in that series. And there's just not a lot of guys who can elevate their game that way.
I totally agree. All right, last question I have for you is as far as basketball is concerned. Game 3 Saturday night. By the way, I hate that there's 3 days between it because you go to the Lakers series, that's every other day, and there's a 3-day
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday
Yeah.
afternoon. I think it's 3:30. Yeah.
What should we expect Game 3 Saturday night?
Well, the good thing about the big gap is that it gave Jimmy Butler plenty of time to get to heal up on that ankle. And if you're tuned into his Instagram, I guess that's what he's doing today. I expect Jimmy Butler to play. Everybody expects Jimmy Butler to play, so that's the number one thing. And I do think that we're going to get a big Heat game. I think they're gonna be upset with what they saw in the film in that Knicks game because I rewatched it. And if you're the Miami Heat, I think there's a lot of things you got to clean up, rebounding, the defense against Jalen Brunson, all these things. And they're going to say we were not good enough. We didn't come out with enough force. The Knicks just outplayed us in that game even without Jimmy Butler. So they're going to come out. They're going to play. I think they're going to play with intent. I think Jimmy Butler is going to be on one, and they're going to be very reluctant to give home court advantage back to the Knicks after they stole it in Game 1 in this series. So I think that's what we're going to see.
All right, 2 more questions that have nothing to do with basketball. First question: it's May the 4th. Are you a Star Wars fan?
I am a fan. Seems strong. I'm entertained by Star Wars.
Okay, well, you're like Cameron. Come on, do better.
I know
Wes.
stuff. I know
with you,
Tatooine. We just went to like in February. Was it February? It doesn't matter. We went to Disney World and did like the little cantina thing, and I understood it. Why?
You get today's May the 4th. It's May the 4th be with you. It's a big day for Star Wars people.
Yeah.
So
my wife said that to me this morning. So I don't know. Like this is a Star Wars friendly household.
It's a thing, Wes. It's a thing. Just say it's a thing. That's it. Just go with it.
Thing.
You don't want the Star Wars people to get on you. It gets bad.
No,
okay?
No, it's like the Beyonce people or the Taylor Swift
the
people.
Beehive will come after you. Right? You don't want that.
Nothing but love for Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and Star Wars. Nothing but love.
And then my last thing is, where can the people find you and your amazing content? And by the way, we'd love to have you on, for the rest of this playoffs and keep bringing you on at least during weeklies so we can get, the best in touch depth analysis that you bring each and every time when you host Locked On Heat.
Yeah, so you can find me Locked On Heat. It's on YouTube, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Go check out allyoucanheat.com where we have written work. I just started there about a month ago, and I'm running that site, and so we're doing really good work. Proud of what we're building over there. So for written stuff, allyoucanheat.com. For the podcast, Locked On Heat, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blocker, Stephen Daniels, Cameron 954, and our guest today was Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat. I will be uploading this as a video after the show today on its own thing, so make sure you hit that like button and share the link because all the Heat fans need to know that Wes Goldberg is the #1 place to get your Heat coverage, man. I appreciate it, Wes. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for chopping it up, Wes.
Yep.
All right. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers. Man, that was fun. I like it.
That was awesome. You're out of control.
He is great, man. That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about that is awesome. And at the end of the day, just good stuff. I like it. Shout out to Wes Goldberg.
Shout out to Wes.
Shout out to the whole entire Locked On family. They are absolutely amazing. Like I said, Alex Dono from Locked On Hurricanes, obviously Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins, and now Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat. So the entire Locked On family is awesome. They're amazing. And we're going to try to get Armando on from Locked On Panthers here next week too, and try to set that up. And we'll have the entire Locked On family here on Miami Sports Music at Clock Blockers, man. We're doing it big with Locked On. I like it. Real quick, what is your expectations for the Heat Saturday night? What do you think?
Oh, back home, I really expect Butler to come out and put his cape on and lead this team to a win, and we take a 2-1 lead. I do expect this series to go at least 6 games.
I would probably agree with you. I think that the Heat from the standpoint and the Knicks. Here's the thing, man. I'm not there. Look, and maybe this is the bias in me, but if the Heat barely lost without Butler, Butler's going to come in and demolish the Knicks. That's how I don't know, man. I want to say Knicks in 5. I want to say Knicks in 5.
Knicks in 5?
I mean, Heat in 5.
You heard it here first on the flip-flopper channel.
5. Heat in 5.
You heard it here first, folks.
5. You didn't hear what I said. Heat in
Gabriel,
5.
he's your man right here. Stephen
God,
D.
you know what I meant.
Host of the Knicks Blockers.
Oh my God, here we go. The Heat in 5.
You said it 3 times, by the way.
Holy flip-flop, B. McD says. Knicks barely won without playing Butler. And when Butler comes back, I saw his face at the end of that game. And I'm sorry, body language and stuff like that. We saw what happened with the Lakers and the Memphis. They used that as board material for what Dylan Brooks said. And the Knicks celebrating after game 2. Come on, bro. Like, you don't think the Heat are going to say, all right, you guys are celebrating. You guys are out in the streets partying at Madison Square Garden.
My Knickerbockers.
I can't, Gabriel. I can't. Miami Sports Cameron, he's all about these New York teams. This just proved it. See, no.
During the NFL offseason, it's the Knicks. During the NFL season, it's Buffalo. We see you, Steven.
Hey, man. All right. Look, I host the show every day, man. Sometimes I get my words messed up. I apologize. I'm not perfect, okay? I'm not perfect.
Good
all
stuff.
right. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. Hit the like button. Hit the like button, man. Make sure y'all hit it. Let's get into some Miami Dolphins football because that's why the people are here. The Miami Dolphins started off-season workouts yesterday, and there was some video that was uploaded to social media, and man, they look good, my God.
Oh, stop it, Steven. It's the first day of practice of a meaningful period of time.
Come on. Seeing it didn't get you excited. I was stoked. I was excited. What is most important in year 2 with the offense and in year 1 with the defense with Vic Fangio? Give us the offense and defense. What is most important over the next week for Dolphins in these off-season workouts?
Everyone to stay healthy. Number 1. You don't want to see anybody blow out a knee like Trill Williams or even worse. But what I want to see, honestly, is the rookies come in next week and have meaningful practices, and we start to get reports on really who fits where, including the undrafted free agents, which I'll talk about here in a second. But I'm really excited through this offseason and training camps into the preseason to see the reports and see with my own eyes this Vic Fangio new defense. If you went to Jalen Ramsey's Twitter, he responded to Salguero in talking about Jalen Ramsey as a defensive back, or Cam Smith's a cornerback, and Jalen Ramsey is a cornerback. And Jalen Ramsey quickly shot back. He says, "I'm not a cornerback. I'm a defensive back." And, talking in reference to Vic Fangio's new scheme. So I'm excited because you see it on paper what they're stockpiling, right? Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey. They drafted Cam Smith. They've got Needham back in the fold. You've got Cater Kahoo. You've got Keon Crossen. They picked up Detroit's safety. You've got the return of their injured safety from Texas last year. You've got Javon Holland. And you see all that on paper. How the hell are they going to get all these guys on the field and get them playing time? And I can see where they're playing, 6 defensive backs, and you've got Jalen Ramsey and Javon Holland, patrolling the middle. I can see different configurations where they're putting these athletes on the field, tempting to throw, tempting quarterbacks and offensive coordinators to challenge them. And on paper, they've got some of the most superior talent in defensive backfield, certainly top 5, moving into this preseason. So that's what I'm looking for most.
I think so as well. For me, it's I want to see the Heat obviously show their full force, their best thing of what they can do in game 3. I think 85 or 86% of the time the winner of game 3 wins the series. It's like 83 or 86%, something like that. But it's over 80+% of the time the winner of game 3 ends up winning the series. So I think this is a must win for the Miami Heat on Saturday night. They will be back at home. The fans will be going crazy. Hopefully Scott Foster won't be in the building.
Time out, Steven.
Huh?
Didn't we just go through? Did we go through a space-time continuum? I know it's May 4th. Be with you, but
Yes.
weren't we talking about the Dolphins?
Yeah, dude. Oh, okay. I apologize. Yes, I am. Wow.
Are you on mushrooms this morning?
No, dude. I'm like talking to Wes Goldberg, and I'm typing with him, and I'm talking with you as we speak, man. I'm doing too many things at once. Guys, I need you to understand this is my struggle hosting a show. So when y'all say, Steven, you don't ever read the chat, there's a reason I need to focus on what's going on so that I don't embarrass myself the way I just did. Man, I've messed up twice this morning now. All in the last 10 minutes.
Got me over here thinking I got Alzheimer's or some shit.
I apologize. I totally spaced. That was bad. Hosting a morning. Look, guys, I'm trying to do everything myself. I'm producing. I'm making sure the sound works. I got my phone ringing. I got Wes Goldberg talking to me.
Just say it again. Knicks in 5.
No. Heat in 5, baby. Heat in 5. Oh my God, I apologize, everybody. All right, look, the Dolphins for me, the second year is Tua learning the playbook, right? Or the first year was learning the playbook. The second year is okay. Now I've learned the playbook. What can I do to get better? Well, the running backs are the same, so you don't have to really get Acme or A-Chain is the one that's going to be learning the playbook. Well, he should be able to get a head start more than most people because all the other running backs in the room know the playbook, so they should be helping bringing him along, right? And the running backs coach and everything, right? And he's here for speed. And the same thing with the wide receivers, right? Robbie Anderson coming in, Braxton Berrios coming in. These guys will be able to get a chance to get some timing down with Tua Tagovailoa. Timing is a big thing in this offense. And if they don't get those things timed, you're not going to be able to see the playing field, aka Eric Azukama last year. So Eric needs to step up too, right? Eric needs to show, hey, I've learned the playbook. I get it. I know you brought in Robbie Anderson. I know you brought in Braxton Berrios, but I'm here too. Azukama is going to get a chance even this week to show McDaniel that he has changed.
Well, he has to, because if not, he'll be off the roster. I mean, he's
100%. 100%. And maybe that's all the more reason that we haven't seen the trigger pulled yet on Cedric Wilson, right? So, people are like, hey, look, why are the Dolphins still hanging on to Wilson? Well, I mean, the answer could lie in Eric Azukama.
Well, no, I think the answer lies in more so that Trent Sherfield's no longer here, and between Azukama, let's put him in that group, but Cedric Wilson and River Craycraft, someone's got to fill that void.
Craycraft's going to get the step up this year.
Well, I mean, someone's got to fill that void is my point, right? And so it's another reason why they drafted the kid out of Stanford, because he's a good
Higgins.
He's a good downfield blocker,
yeah.
Which something that Trent Sherfield did last year, and Gesicki didn't. So,
well, they've already said that they're transitioning him to the tight end role, right? And so that, by the way, Eric Saubert, who we saw some video of, who looked really good in the Dolphins uniform. Everybody looks good in a Dolphins uniform, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. At least that plays for the Dolphins.
Shout out to Agent Zero, Braxton.
Dude, Braxton in that Agent Zero. That's a fire jersey, bro. It's such a fire jersey. Looking just to stay on the offense, what does McDaniel do in this particular couple of weeks or this week in the offseason workouts? Because he knows where for example, right? bringing in somebody like Brent Berry, who's the offensive line coach. He brought him in because Frank Smith, who's the offensive coordinator for this team, although he doesn't call the plays, McDaniel does. He wanted Frank Smith to be able to take a bigger step up or have more of a say in implementing game plans into the team. How do you see Frank Smith incorporating himself in these workouts, as well as Butch Berry, who's taken over the offensive line room? Because you guys like Dan Feeney, who's coming in on the offensive line room. Ryan Hayes is going to get an opportunity to see some stuff this week. And then Frank Smith, I mean, I think he's got to help McDaniel in some way, shape, or form. And I don't exactly know how he does do that because McDaniel's calling the plays. McDaniel's the one that's calling the shots. So what does that look like as far as the new coaches? Butch Berry, Frank Smith obviously taking a bigger role on the offense coordinator, and McDaniel from a play calling standpoint. How does that work for off-season workouts?
These guys have already been, since they've been hired, they've been integrating themselves into the offensive playbook and the coaching. I think it has more to do with the players. It has more to do with undrafted free agents and trying to figure out, in next week's, rookie minicamp, who's going to move forward? Who are they going to give the third string snaps to? Who are going to give the special team snaps to? Who's going to fit into the spots where they have question marks? Backup, offensive linemen, and what have you. I'm really excited for one. So let me ask you this, Stephen. Mm-hmm. Out of the list of undrafted free agents, who are you most excited about?
No, I actually have them here, so I can pull it up. So the undrafted free agents here, Aubrey Miller out of Jackson State excites the hell out of me, and he seems to be the name that every Dolphins fan is excited about. We know for a fact that the undrafted free agents, there will be at least one, if not two, that will make the roster because the Dolphins' MO over the last 2 or 3 years is there is an undrafted free agent that takes a huge step up. The other one that I'm interested in looking at too is Michael Turk, the punter out of Oklahoma. You see his photo up here on this thing. I think Michael Turk, I don't know what Bailey is like after his injury, right? And I think that's going to play a big part. Who's the better holder, by the way, the placeholder on field goals for Jason Sanders? Who is he going to have better chemistry with, right? I think that's going to play a part into this week as well. And then as far as one other name that I'm excited about, for me, I like DJ Scaife Jr., the University of Miami tackle. I like him from the standpoint of he played in the Miami Heat. He understands what the Heat is like in Miami. And for a big guy, can you make a step up? Now, but he's, in my opinion, a 1,000,000 to 1 shot to make the roster any more than Ryan Hayes is there, to make the roster.
Can you pull that back up? Because I agree with you on Michael Turk. And Michael Turk comes from a family of, I think it's 2 or 3 brothers that played in the NFL as punters.
His uncle played for us for 4 years.
Yeah, and I think his brother played for the Bears.
Yep.
But pull that back up real quick because there's a couple names on here that are pretty interesting. So number 1, Michael Turk for me. Number 2, Brandon Pilley, defensive lineman. He's a body type that the Dolphins don't have. He's a huge nose tackle. That could be utilized. Remember, Jason Jenkins wasn't re-signed, so he has an opportunity. Plus, Brandon Pilley got guaranteed money to sign with the Dolphins, which means they really wanted him and had something earmarked for him. But out of the rest of the guys, the intriguing name, and I don't think he's got any chance of making the team, but it'd be interesting to see how he comes in, is James Blackman. If you remember him at Florida State starting as a freshman and sophomore, he was pretty horrendous. Lean, lanky kid. If you see him now after what he did at Arkansas State, he's filled out. He's learned the game. He's totally redesigned his throwing motion. And the guy's he's got one of those buggy whip arms, kind of like Lamar Jackson. Not saying he is Lamar Jackson, but he's intriguing, right? He's at least going to give Skylar Thompson competition for the number 3 spot. And that's what you bring in a quarterback for, especially an undrafted quarterback. So those are the guys for me.
look, our undrafted free agent, our third string quarterbacks over the last few years that Greer has brought in end up being backups somewhere else in the NFL. So, we talk all the time about the Tua situation, and the reality is there's a couple of backups in the NFL that got the Reed Sinnett, obviously got a big start here. And there's another one. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Oh man, I can't think of his name.
38% of the NBA NFL roster players are undrafted.
That's crazy.
38%.
Dolphins have a good track record with undrafted free agents. So I think it should work. And by the way, that starts this week in the training room, right? Yeah. Well, the rookies aren't there this week, right?
No, the rookies are there next week.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's get into the defensive side of the thing. So Vic Fangio is here. Okay. There was a tweet. There was a conversation on Twitter between Dolphins fans and beat writers and beat reporters. And Jalen Ramsey was tagged in one. And Ramsey, did you see what he said?
I talked about this a couple minutes ago, but it's okay.
They talked about the defensive side of the cornerbacks.
He labeled himself as a defensive
back, and then had a smiley face with it.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's hinting that we are going 4 defensive backs and 1 safety.
Or how about 6 defensive backs, period, without a label on them? So if you identify Vic Fangio's defenses, if you go out, especially with the Chicago Bears, right? Because this is the first year he really implemented on a regular basis. He played, so generally you have 2 cornerbacks and 2 safeties, right? The cornerbacks, let's say you play press man, they cover their man on one side of the field, the safeties play over the top. If you play zone, you split the field in half, right? Mm-hmm. With a safety over the top of the left, a safety over the top of the right. Vic Fangio splits it in either quadrants, 4s, or 6s. And he's had 6 defensive backs, or let's say 4 cornerbacks and 2 safeties, right? Mm-hmm. And you play a 3-man front with two linebackers. And it's pretty interesting to see. And that's what I was talking about when you were in your space-time continuum, that
I'm sorry.
On paper, you see X, you see Jalen, you see Cam Smith, you see the guy they got from Detroit, you see Javon Holland, who am I forgetting? Cater Kahoo, Keon Crossing,
Trill Williams,
Sean
Elliott.
Well, I said Deshaun Elliott, and Brandon Thomas and Javon Holland before Thomas got hurt.
Brandon Jones,
sorry, was incredible back there in tandem with Javon Holland.
They were.
And, he's a downhill type safety. So I'm really excited to see how Fangio puts these pieces on the field at once.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but
Don't say it.
Because of the defense that's being implemented by Fangio, does it give somebody like Noah Igbenogany an opportunity, because now there's no labels and the way that he's going to have this package design, to be able to step up? And I say that because go back and look at his best game, the Pittsburgh Steelers game. He was pretty much in a zone for that. He wasn't playing man-to-man. He was pretty much covering a zone in that game. And I think that he played well when that happened. When he gets in man-to-man, that's where Noah gets beat 99% of the time. Do you think Noah could flourish in a Vic Fangio defense?
We'll see, because regardless of not having his option picked up, like that's not a big deal for me. They can sign him to an extension. Doesn't mean and same with Austin Jackson. They could be working on a 2-year extension or something like that. So, I don't put too much weight into having these 5th-year options not picked up. But to answer your question, he has the athleticism, right? I think it's between the ears. And if Fangio sees Noah as having a place on this team in his defensive scheme, you're going to see him on the field. And it's simple as that.
I don't disagree with you that we could probably see Noah for another year. I'm starting to come to that realization, and I had it this past week because I've said for months now, there's no way Noah should be on this team. Noah shouldn't be even make this roster. He shouldn't even be sniffing in the locker room. And now I'm thinking, well, he hasn't been released yet. I understand they didn't pick up their next year option on him, but who cares? And I agree with you on that. I don't think that. I think honestly, guys like Austin Jackson and Noah who didn't get their 5th-year options, I look at it as you play or go home. You're either going to play or you're not. And this is there's no safety net for you. You better play, and we better get the best out of you. And I think that's the best thing that the Dolphins could do with those guys right now.
I want to talk about that for a second. The 2020 draft, real quick, and we don't have to spend much time on it. But there was 25 guys from that first round that were eligible to have their first round picks, their 5th-year option picked up. 25, right? 3 of the guys out of the league, and 2 of those first round picks were traded. So they're ineligible. So 25 guys. 13 of those guys didn't have their options picked up. 13 out of 25. Only 12 players have their 5th-year option picked up. And it tells you
Tua being one of them.
It tells you the quality of that 2020 draft was kind of garbage. And it also tells you that drafting, players into an NFL system is such an inexact science. As much as everything's made up of the Senior Bowl and the Combine and the draft reports and all of this, you don't know until you get into a system of how that player is going to play out.
I'll do you one better. There was no Combine. There was no Senior Bowl that year. That was COVID year. It might actually make more of a point that there is a need for the Combine and a need for the Senior Bowl because the talent evaluation is so much better. And so all these teams had to go on for the year of 2020 was game film for the prior years. They couldn't bring these guys in for workouts. They couldn't have those guys do they didn't have the underwear Olympics. They did none of that in 2020.
That's a great point.
And so, that's going to be a very interesting thing, moving forward. And that is probably the ultimate reason why you did not see contracts. What is it? 13 of them out of 25 did not get picked up for their 5th-year options.
Correct.
I think it's a direct result of COVID. And I think it's a direct result of that 2020 draft in COVID.
So my point is that Greer gets picked on a little bit more than other GMs because he had 3 picks that year, and I don't think it's entirely fair to say that.
For what? For me or my statement?
No. For Greer, for Greer just to get as much.
For fans to be like putting all that crap on Greer about the 2020 draft.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you have an out on that. I think it's legit. You go look at the rest of the NFL. If 13 of 25 guys that were eligible did not get picked up. Now, here's the question. What I'd like to know, Cameron, and I guess we can look into it, is in the 2019, how many guys' 5th-year options got picked up last year? How many 5th-year options got picked up last year? That would be an interesting stat to know, because if it's a significant difference, then you can definitely say COVID played a part into it. If it's not, maybe you can't make that argument as much. But it would be interesting. I would be interested to know. I think it'd play a part. B. McD says, why does everyone ignore Waddle, Phillips, and Holland? I think that, I agree with you, B. McD. I don't think that you should be able to ignore them. Waddle, Phillips, and Holland. Here's the thing. It was an easy pick to go out and get Jalen because, he's as good as he was. But you could have easily plugged in Devontae Smith, who's been just as good for Philadelphia, and you would have been fine, right? And so people want to give the excuse of it wasn't that hard. There were too many good receivers in that draft. Well, look, I mean, we were talking about who's the tight end for Atlanta that everybody wanted. Was it Atlanta or
Florida?
Yeah. And he hasn't really panned out as well as we all thought he would. He's still good. Don't get it twisted. But, he's not anywhere near what we thought he would be. And so I think Chris Greer should get the credit for bringing in Waddle over somebody else.
100%.
And the same thing for Phillips, right? Phillips, that was a non-guarantee. You're talking about a guy that had an injury history in college football, that transferred from Oregon back to Miami, or from Miami back to Oregon. Which one was it? I forget. But either way, we're talking about somebody with an injury-plagued history who had retired from football.
So going back to your question, it's 12 out of the 32 eligible 2019 first-round picks got picked up, and I'm not including Dwayne Haskins because rest in peace.
So I don't know if we can make the argument then for.
No, we can.
Why?
12 out of 32 isn't 13 out of 25.
Oh, that's true.
It's a much leaner.
You're talking about percentage-wise, yeah. I guess you're right.
And Burrow and Herbert got their options picked up. Well, because they're going to extend both those contracts out of 2020.
So I guess that makes my argument even more, from the standpoint of COVID played a role in the 2020 draft and has played a role in why first round and second round draft picks just have not panned out as well in the 2020 draft as compared to other years, or players not getting picked up for their fifth year options. I think that's crazy. I think people need to talk about that more. That's a very awesome stat that we uncovered here, and very interesting thing to dive into a little bit more. All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. We're going to open up the lines, take you one at a time, take your questions down. We're going to go up till noon today. I got Cameron from East 32 Dolphins Tailgate. You can ask us any questions you want. Dolphins, Heat, whatever it is. It's your show. It's your world. We're just living in it. I promise I won't space out. We're not doing a big panel. We're not doing Wiling Out Thursday. But we do want to take your questions, and I'll bring you on one at a time. So I just dropped the link. It's pinned to the top of the page. Get up here and ask us whatever you want, or give us your take if you have a take about something. I think it's a lot of great things we went over today. If you missed it today so far, we had Wes Goldberg on from Locked On Heat. Had a great interview with him. We had a good, 45-minute, 50-minute chat about Major League Baseball. Go back and listen to that. I'm actually going to break that down and put it in its own video today, too. I got a lot of editing to do this afternoon. And then I think I want to clip that 2020 draft thing, because I think that's something that we just uncovered. I don't think anybody else has talked about that. It's such a big thing because it makes a case. It makes such a bigger case for we talk about the NFL Combine. We're like, is that really needed? What do you really get out of that? What is it from the Combine that you can't get from game film?
Or pro day workouts.
Or pro day workouts. Man. Because I've heard people for years saying, you don't need that. Just look at the game film. It'll show you everything you need.
And listen, I'm telling you right now, the NFL Players Union, it's one of their biggest bargaining chips for the next collective agreement is to get rid of the Combine.
I don't think they should. And I think the NFL should fight it, especially after seeing this.
It'll be a huge sticking point. And it's more of a cultural thing than anything else.
I mean, I understand why, but you can make the point from them. So let me ask you. All right. So let's say they get rid of the Combine. That's fine. But you shouldn't get rid of pro days. Pro days should absolutely happen.
Pro days aren't regulated by the NFL. They're put on by the respective colleges, and the scouts are invited. The Combine is an NFL sanctioned event that they invite players to. So it's vice versa. It's flipped, right?
All right. So besides that, from a football standpoint or what you do, is there any major differences between a pro day and the Combine? Because you're doing the same things.
Yeah, I think there is, because in the pro days, the players, the scouts, and the colleges control what is seen. Where in the Combine, it's regimented for every player, and it's controlled by the NFL. So
let's say they get rid of the Combine. Does the NFL go to these colleges and say, okay, here, look, we got rid of the Combine?
Well, that's the thing. They can't regulate the NCAA and what they do.
No, I understand that, but could they ask and say, okay, if we do this, what we would like from these colleges is, and they can't guarantee anything, right? But is, hey, look, we want to see a 40-yard time. We want to see bench press. We want to see them jump, get their height. We want to see the measurements.
But that's just the thing. They don't have to, right? They're not required to because the NCAA controls it or the specific colleges control it. So you're tailoring to each player's strengths and what you want to showcase to that particular team or agent.
Interesting. It's definitely a discussion we need to dive into more. I think it's great, and I think we should dive into it on social media too. So be on the lookout for that sometime this afternoon. All right, Miami Sports Music. The link is pinned to the top of the page. If you want to discuss something, get up here. We are open till noon, man. We'll take a question or a viewpoint that you had and get you off, and we'll go on to the next person. So get on. I only got one person in the back right now. I'm going to bring them on, and then let's keep it going. All right. Good morning, Anthony. What's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, Cameron and Steven, how are you guys today?
Pretty good, man. What's going on?
Good morning,
honestly,
Anthony.
I you know how the reason why, how about moving around instead of keeping it, you can still have it in one place, but move around the combine, not eliminate it, but move it around to different states.
Anthony, that's not what the argument is. The argument, is a cultural thing of presenting these players, in a negative light, that they're human beings, and we're sitting out there and we're trotting them, and I get it, I understand it, but what I will say is, you can make the argument that these things, pro days, combines, make a difference in how players get drafted because of what we just came up with. The 2020 draft, there was no pro days, there were no combine. And we saw a direct result that out of 25 people that were eligible for fifth-year signings or fifth-year extensions, right? What is it called? Fifth-year option.
Fifth-year option.
That only 13 of them didn't get picked up out of the 25. And the prior year, it was only 13 didn't get picked up out of how many?
12 of 32.
12 of 32. So that's a big difference. Big
yeah,
difference.
No, and also, we can, the sport that we can actually compare the most to football in terms of the combine, hockey caught a few teams cheating.
It's a big difference, Anthony. It's a big
no. I want to use the example. I'm just using an example. Look at what happened in hockey. They fined and took away picks from teams for contacting players way too early. Prospects, because
but you'll never see that in football, man. Hockey's so much more different. There are players that get drafted to the NHL at 18 years old, and nobody gets drafted to the NFL after their second or third year of college, most third year of college. So
not necessarily. Not necessarily.
There are exceptions.
Austin Jackson was drafted at 19.
All right, Anthony, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much for your comment. Let me bring on the next person. Souza, good morning. What's up, Souza?
Good morning, man. How y'all doing?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Good morning, Souza.
Hey, question. How did y'all let that man get away with saying that Spoelstra was the reason D-Wade was a Hall of Famer?
So he brings up a good point, right?
No, I think it's vice versa, though.
All right, well, let me explain my point, and then I want you to make your argument, okay? Present your case. Dwayne Wade was great in college. There's no doubting that. The man was great at Marquette. He did a lot of great things, and he was an exciting young prospect coming out of college, right? So we knew that he had raw athletic talent and natural talent from a basketball standpoint. But he wasn't, he wasn't polished. And so so when Dwayne Wade came into the NBA, it was at the same time that Eric Spoelstra took over the developmental program for draft picks and undrafted free agents, and G League players and stuff like that, which was NBA whatever it's called, developmental league at the time. But anyways, he was part of that, Dwayne Wade, right? Not the G League or developmental league, just a young prospect and helping him get to that next level. And so Dwayne Wade has been on record that's saying that if it wasn't for the workouts that he did with Spoelstra and the one-on-one that he got with Eric Spoelstra in the gym during those first couple of years, he would not be the player that he was today. He said he learned a lot of the habits that he learned were a direct result of habits that he learned from Eric Spoelstra those first 2 years. And you have to put that into play.
Yeah,
So
I get that. Go ahead.
I think it's a fair point that he made, that if you don't adopt some of those things, those traits, like Kobe said it all the time. Kobe was like, I think Richard Jefferson was, it was either Derrick Rose or Richard Jefferson. They were at an away game, or they were hosting, and the Lakers were on the road and they're home, and he gets to the gym at like 3:00, and he's like, I'll get to the gym early. I'll try to beat Kobe to the gym. And it's like 3:00, right?
Oh yeah, I remember the story.
And Kobe was already there and had done 200 or 300 shots. And Kobe goes to Richard Jefferson or whoever it was and said, you got to get here earlier, to beat somebody like me, right? But those things, Kobe will even tell you, he wasn't adopting those things until he got into the league. Because if you remember Kobe's rookie year, he was still great, don't get it twisted. And he was still putting in work into the gym, but he was also being an 18-year-old and having a good time and enjoying life. It wasn't until he adopted some of these better things, these things that, hey, I need to get into the gym. I need to do these things, because without him, I'm not going to have a long career. I'm not going to be able to break records and do these things. Spoelstra is a direct result. The stuff that Spoelstra implemented to Dwayne Wade is a direct result why Dwayne Wade is a top 20 greatest player of all time.
I get that, but I also think,
so real quick, my take is that you have an elite athlete coming out of Marquette who just established himself as so through the NCAA tournament, and he gets taken by Miami Heat, who they saw that in him. They've been following him. He's a Chicago guy, but they molded him, right? He just didn't step out of Marquette and into Miami and be the player he was that first year as a rookie, or that 14th or 15th year, whatever it was, when he retired. The development along that whole timeline is a process to greatness. And honestly, you started, with a wonderful piece of clay, but that clay had to be molded. There's plenty of examples of athletes in all sports that just didn't get the development or the nurturing through the whole process and didn't achieve, what their expectations were. But Dwayne Wade was one of those that did, and Spo was, and Pat Riley, I'll have to say, and the whole culture that he was brought into was a reason that Dwayne Wade made it where he was. They're not the only reasons, because all the work went into Dwayne, was on Dwayne Wade's shoulders. He put in the work. He did the things. He made the commitments and the sacrifices to get where he was. But it's because he was in the environment with Spo and Pat Riley and all the players around him.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You can't dismiss the fact of Pat Riley, and you got Shaq. That Shaq, he was with Penny. He had Kobe. I'm pretty sure he nurtured Wade a little bit, And I ain't saying Spoelstra had nothing to do with it.
Say that again.
I'm not saying that Spoelstra had nothing to do with it. I'm just saying, okay. The way he put it out there is like, oh, he's the reason he's a Hall of Famer. And you can go vice versa and say
he's a big reason, and I think Dwayne Wade would admit to that. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that statement.
But Dwayne Wade and the Big Three is the reason he landed a good spot. Just like Steve Kerr. He walked into a winning organization too.
Well, Mark Jackson had something already set in stone for Golden State, right? But Steve Kerr is, let's be honest, right? Mark Jackson built up that initial, three-headed monster: Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, right?
And they actually played defense back then.
Correct. And Steve Kerr obviously took it. So we can say that Mark Jackson deserves some of the credit for how great Golden State is, but we can also say that they've been able to long sustain their greatness over a long period of time because of Steve Kerr, right? Point blank. You got to give Steve Kerr a lot of credit. And Steve Kerr is
I do give him credit
when it's all said and done. Let's just get that straight. Now, to go back to Spoelstra is, it's funny. Pat Riley, here's the thing. Pat Riley had to know what Spoelstra was about in order to bring him on his staff. And eventually, Pat Riley's the only reason why Eric Spoelstra became the coach of the Heat, because there were tons of other qualified people after Pat Riley decided to hang up and said, you know what, I'm done. But Spoelstra now is his own, like, he makes his own decisions. Pat Riley, obviously, he works in conjunction with him. But let's be real, man. Like, Spoelstra, don't discount the work that Spoelstra's done to make some of the players even better than what they have in their arsenal. And I get that man was a dog from day one, as Andravia said about Dwayne Wade, and I'm not arguing that fact. I'm just telling you that Spoelstra was able to polish things to make him have a long tenured career.
Yeah, and the other day, because I work at a barbershop, and we were talking about Spoelstra, and I told him straight up, like, I didn't think he was going to continue to win after the Big Three split up.
Me neither.
And he's proven me wrong.
He has. And
he's
a big reason why. Think about it. And I said it during the interview with Wes Goldberg. The Miami Heat made the finals in the bubble in 2020. They were one game away last year, and they're making a run this year. And you have to say that Spoelstra's a big part of that because, look, Jimmy Butler was good when he played in Philadelphia. I get it. He was still one of the best. But I feel like playoff Jimmy Butler, we never saw during his tenure in Philadelphia. We never saw how good he was. And I got to think that Spoelstra has something to do with how great Jimmy Butler has become.
That's big coming from the Knickerbockers.
Hey, man, look.
You got him. Well played, Sosa. Well played.
Well played, Sosa. Hey, you know how hard I work, Sosa. Don't do that to me, man.
I know.
I love you, brother. Thank you for listening to the show.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one.
Be good, buddy.
Take care, bro.
All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show. Guys, get on. I got the link open. Feel free to come on, talk about whatever you want to talk about. We can talk Dolphins. We can talk Marlins. We can talk Heat. Whatever you want to talk about.
Real quick, while we're getting somebody else up here, I just was reading the sports headlines. Alabama baseball just fired its head coach, who had been the head coach since 2017, for gambling on his own team.
No way. That's
Alabama.
Big. That is big.
It's crazy that someone in that position would think, hey, yeah, let's go put some money on my own team that I'm coaching and influencing.
Let me ask you, do you think let's get into that conversation a little bit while we're waiting for somebody to get on. Guys, you can change the subject at any time by getting on and getting in the back room. But let's talk about that real quick. There have been 4 players this year in the NFL to now be suspended in some way, shape, or form for the gambling. Obviously, fantasy sports has implemented, come into the game on many different levels. And this was kind of something that we all kind of saw from afar. Hey, look, these guys play fantasy sports. They're going to be doing this. And this is one of the red flags with bringing gambling into as sponsors of the game and a part of the game. Just give me your thoughts about, where fantasy sports and how, just sports books in general. Now we have access to it on our phone. It's becoming, a thing pretty much everywhere.
It's so hypocritical for the NFL. Let's use the NFL on one hand to embrace gambling and have these sites as FanDuel and what's the other one? What DraftKings as major sponsors, to the point where they're putting sports books inside stadiums.
I went to the Nationals game, and there was a sports book right there in the stadium.
There's one right there in Chicago, right next to Wrigley Field, man.
I was like, what? I didn't go in it, but I
was in New York City. There's one there. Like it's right next to the Garden. Like, so my point is, it's hypocritical for NFL. Number one, they're putting sports books inside stadiums, but now you're banning players from
you
gambling.
100%.
Like,
And
so Calvin Ridley, right? He was the one that was.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Calvin Ridley. Let's use him for an example.
He had a FanDuel account and was gambling on basketball, not even football.
Yep.
Like, I understand it if you're gambling on the sport you play in, on the team you play on. Like, that kind of, to me, is.
What about fantasy sports? And players admit that they do fantasy football.
100%. So how can you, like, it's so hypocritical to me. Like, either you don't take the money from these sports books and have these marketing partnerships, or
Ridley
you
did gamble on football, though, I think. Just so you know.
Huh?
Ridley did gamble on football, I'm pretty sure.
You know who did was Quintez Cephas, right? He was a wide receiver for Detroit, and he got his contract nullified. He just signed a 4-year contract before last season, and he got it nullified because of the gambling ban. He was gambling on college football. College football. So how hypocritical is that, man?
I think it opened the NFL. All these pro leagues had to understand the moment they brought in DraftKings and Fantasy Pros and Roto, all this crap into it, okay? They had to know the can of worms that could eventually and probably would have be open to. And if they didn't see that, shame on them, right?
So Andrevius, brings up a good point. Like, he bet on his team to win, right? Like, I don't see an issue with that either, but you start going down that road of, all right, so maybe I'm going to bet on this team to lose, and I'm going to drop a pass, or I'm going to commit a penalty. Like, it opens up Pandora's box, right?
Yep.
If you're betting on your own team, and I understand that.
I think the rules should state, okay? Because we've already opened up the door. So how do we make it? How do we fine tune it? You are not allowed to bet in any way, shape, or form on you or players on your team. Not allowed to. Can't do it. Anywhere else, by all means, go to town. Have fun.
It's not fair. It's hypocritical, and really it's it's a bad look.
People's argument will be, well, people are friends with one another. What's to stop player X from calling player Z who lives in Washington and say, hey man, I got $1 million on you. Just make
happens
sure
all the time.
It
happens all the time. But you know what? It's not the player doing the betting. Like, it happens all the time, right? Like, players have their posse, throwing money down on whatever it is.
Do you know that? And that the NFL, when they filed for to be able to have the casino partner or the gambling partnership with these people, they had to file through court in Congress and all this. Well, court, whatever it was, but they listed that they were an entertainment company. They didn't list that they did not list that they were a professional sports.
Well, sports is entertainment.
I understand, but the NBA listed it as professional sports when they did their thing. NFL did it as entertainment.
What did Major League Baseball do? It's Major League Baseball.
But I just know those two.
It's Major League Baseball entertainment.
I think it brings up a very interesting thing, and it brings up conspiracy theories, right? People are then wanting to have the conversation of, is this real? Is this not? Is the NFL scripted? I don't think the NFL scripted. Let me just throw that out there. I don't believe that it is for a minute, but it does. You can't argue with people who have the theory of there are signs that show that it could be. And you're right. There are, but it's not. Let's be real about that. That's my view on it.
I agree, man. I agree.
All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. We had a great show today. May the 4th be with you, man. It is Star Wars Day. I'm probably going to play Star Wars to end the show, man. Yeah, man, what do you think about the script writers at strike, man? No more late night TV, none of this. Writers strike in Hollywood, man. Now you got to watch us every day.
I don't watch TV. I don't watch those late night shows, dude. Doesn't affect my life.
Says I'm joining the script writers.
Andrevius, you could be a script writer for Clock Blockers or
Andrevius said, Dolphins about to 3-peat, baby. Let's go. I like it. Life is good, man. I hope you all enjoyed the show today. It was a lot of fun. Special thanks to Cameron, obviously, doing your thing, man. I love talking with you, and Thursdays are a lot of fun. We are going on Thursdays to implement more baseball talk and more other sports talk for our Thursday show. I think that's where our Thursday show is going to start coming in more with other sports, and obviously Miami Dolphins will always be number one, and that's where we're going to try to stick to as our anchor for everything. But Thursdays I want to start getting in more sports, and I love talking baseball with you and hockey and football. And shout out to Wes Goldberg. Thank you so much for coming on from Locked On Sports. The entire Locked On family's absolutely amazing. A lot of fun doing stuff with them, and we're Miami Sports Music and Locked On Sports are going to be doing more stuff heading into the future. So hopefully we can get that thing going a little bit more, and bring in Alex Dunno on more on a regular basis, and Kyle Krabs on more on a regular basis and stuff like that, because all those guys, Wes, Alex, Kyle, and hopefully Armando, they're all great guys, and I'm excited to do more stuff with them. What's your final thoughts of the day, Cameron?
Final thoughts, man. We've got a huge, big weekend in South Florida sports and Florida sports in general. But, you've got the Panthers tonight, 7:30 puck drop. We've got the Heat on Saturday. 1:30 tip off. We've got Formula One this weekend in Miami. You should see the stadium, Steven. It's beautiful. The parking lot's got the grandstands up.
Oh, that's right. F1 is in Miami this weekend, man.
It is popping off. It's huge. A lot of activations going on in that around town. You've got the Kentucky Derby, which is exciting, man.
Always fun.
And it's always a fun, exciting time of the year.
Kentucky Derby's this weekend, right?
Yeah.
All right, Kentucky Derby. I just want to see the names. Let's just see the names real quick of the horses.
And Gulfstream Park down here in Aventura.
Here we go. You ready? You ready? Here's the horses' names for Saturday. Hit Show. Like it. Verifying. Two Fills. Confidence Game. Tapete Trice. King's Barnes. Reincarnate. Mage. Skinner. Practical Move. Disarm. Jace's Road. Sun Thunder. Angel of Empire. Forte. Raise Cain. I like that one. Raise Cain. But it's spelled Cain, not Cane. Derma Soto Gate, Japan. Rocket Can, Lord Miles, Continuar, Cyclone Mischief, Madron Hero, and King Russell. I'm trying to see what name I like the most. I think Hit Show is probably my favorite. Angel of Empire and Hit Show.
I've got to. So who's in the 15th position?
15th is Forte, 3-1 odds.
Yeah, that's your favorite.
That's your favorite. Angel of Empire and 14 at 8-1 odds. And the fifth gate is Tapete Trice at 5-1. And then there's a lot of 50-1s, 30-1s, some 10, some 20-1s. King's Barn is 12-1. Two Fills.
I got to see the name of this one you couldn't pronounce.
Yeah, I can't say his name for the life of me. But I always enjoy the names of the horses. That's about as far as I go. Caslin gave us a $5 donation earlier, and I want to say thank you. And I want to answer his question. His question is for the both of us. He said, with the Padres and Dodgers being front runners for Ohtani, who do you think gets him, and what players do you think they packaged to get him? The Padres are definitely going to be on Ohtani. And I think Fernando Tatis or even Manny Machado might be a part of that package. I don't see Juan Soto going anywhere. I think they're really pissed off at Fernando Tatis for the suspension that he got. But I definitely see the Padres going after him. But
number one, Shohei Ohtani is a free agent after this year, so it doesn't have to be a trade. He's going to
They could trade. They could get something for him.
Well, if they trade him by the deadline, but if they're in contention, they're only 2 games out right now. If they're in contention come trade deadline, they're not going to trade Ohtani.
That's true.
But would you trade him if you were 7 games back, 8 games back?
Level 2 Noob says Ohtani is not getting traded, isn't getting traded. Here's the thing. If they are 8 games or more back, they will consider it. If they're
would you trade Trout too?
Yeah, you 100% do.
Trade them both, right? Trade Trout back to Boston where he wants to be anyway.
Go trade Trout to Boston, trade Ohtani to the Baltimore Orioles, and let's go.
And I'm telling you, with every grain in my being, that Shohei Ohtani is going to make $600 million a year, or $600 million contract.
That's insane. Insane.
And do the math and tell yourself who can afford that. Number one.
All right.
Number two. Hold on.
Okay.
Number 2. Ask you who can afford that after next season or after this season, because that kind of takes the Padres out of the equation.
It does.
The
All right,
Dodgers can.
Let's go. Red Sox, Yankees, Mets, Philadelphia Phillies,
Cubs,
White Sox, Braves. White Sox are they're either going to get rid of everybody because they got Luis Robert and a lot of good talent there, or
all those guys, they're going to gut that team.
That's what I'm saying. Or they're going to gut them. The Braves, and then it goes to the Dodgers and the Padres. Now, a long shot, the Athletics, because they're moving to Vegas. And why not imagine Shohei Ohtani in Las Vegas? I think it's a long shot. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, they're not going to play in Oakland until 2027. So why would he do that?
Because think about this for a second, Cameron. If you know that he's going to get a 10 to 15-year contract, it's going to be that long. And if you can keep Ohtani for 15 years, and yes, we're not moving to Vegas till 2026 or 2027, but your main attraction is Shohei Ohtani, let's go. People will go to Vegas just to see Shohei Ohtani. He'll be an attraction there.
And so think about this. Think about this. You know, Shohei Ohtani has the freedom to select who he wants to play for.
Correct.
Number 1.
Yep.
He's a free agent. Number 2, he wants to win. So what team gives him the best opportunity to win over the next 3 to 4 years?
The Red Sox or the Yankees?
Number 3.
Or the Mets?
The way he plays the game, for teams, the way he plays the game, it's going to scare off anything past 8 years.
He's going to get $600 million for 8 years, Cameron?
He's a two-way player right now. He cannot keep doing what he's doing every year and continue to perform on the way he's performing. Period.
Well, let me do the math on this.
No, it's insane. It's like 80 million, right? 80 times 8 is 640. So
he's going to get $75 to $85 million per year. Per year. That's
who can afford that? Go look at the Chicago Cubs.
So Nesson and the Red Sox can afford it.
But hold on, stop. Or let's talk about the Red Sox. They just signed Jose Devers a $325 million contract.
Yoshida to 90 mil. Right? What's it? Or the Japanese player to 90. Masa, I can't say his name. The Japanese guy for 90 mil. And allegedly they're going to be on the other Japan guy that did great in the World Baseball Classic, and he's going to be available next year. And yeah, so they're going to be in on him, and he's a $200-300 million a year guy or contract guy, because he's better than the guy that they currently got. So
So the both New York teams you look at as an opportunity because they support his culture so well, right? And that's important to him.
Mets and the Yankees. And you have the Yes Network with the Yankees and SNY with the Mets.
No, but I'm saying the culture in the city.
No, I get it. I understand it. Yeah.
And then Chicago. You look at Chicago, they have a ton of contracts coming off the books after this season, a ton of young money. They've committed to Ian Happ and Nico Horner, and that's about it.
What about the Giants?
The Giants are absolutely so. And there's reports he wants to stay
have
in
a
the
big,
West.
Asian population.
And there's reports to say that he wants to stay on the West Coast. And just as the San Francisco exhibited this past offseason offering Judge $50 million a year, they're not afraid to make that type of commitment.
Man. So
Seattle is your wild card in my eyes.
And if I'm honest, if I'm the Angels and I am 8 games out, I am trading Ohtani and Trout to the highest bidder and said, you get to have Ohtani and Trout for the next 2.5 months to make a run.
You trade them to the same team?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily do that. I mean, you could, but you got to think if it's only for a 2.5 month rental, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 really good players. But if you trade both of them, if you just let them walk, you're not getting anything for them.
Nope.
There's no comp picks, I think, in baseball for stuff like that, if I'm correct. So you're not going to get anything for them. And even if you did, what the hell is Major League Baseball draft picks anyway? So that's irrelevant. So if I'm the Angels and I'm 8 games out, I'm saying Ohtani's for sale, and so is Mike Trout. Who wants him? Come get him. And I don't believe Mike Trout has a no trade clause, and I know Ohtani doesn't have one. So if I'm the Orioles, if I'm any of these small market teams and I get a chance to go after this guy for 2.5 months at the contract that they currently have, and all I got to do is give up 1, maybe 2 good players,
1 or 2 players.
That you're not. So when Manny Machado got traded to the Dodgers had 1.5 years left on his contract. They traded 5 for 1, and 3 of the 5 were top 10 picks in their farm system. Okay. There's no way that for a 2.5 month rental that they're going to be able to get a player.
You're also talking about somebody who's exponentially better than Machado and impacts the game
for
doubly.
So let's play this.
So let's say this: if you're Pittsburgh and you have the opportunity to go to the World Series, like say you're leading, the NL Central and you're 10 games up, and you legitimately are a playoff contender. You're not going to tell me you're not going to give up your 3 best player, your 3 best prospects for a rental of Ohtani because he is the best player on the planet, and it certainly leapfrogs you over anybody else in the National League for a World Series opportunity.
Let's play this.
100% you are.
All right, I'm an Orioles fan, right? And so the Orioles have the number 1 rated farm system in Major League Baseball.
You give up Grayson Hernandez and Holiday and somebody else.
So you got Grayson Hernandez, who, by the way, I don't think he would go. Okay, the Dolphins.
We're playing hypothetical.
So I am. You ready? Jackson Holiday, he's gone. There's 1. Colton Cowser, the outfielder, he's number 2. And you probably need to give up a pitching prospects, which is DL Hall and AAA. There's 3. And Kobe Mayo, the third baseman, is 4. And they're all top 10 prospects on the number 1 farm system in Major League Baseball. You give up 4 prospects in the top 10 and maybe another 1 or 2 at the bottom 30. Bro, I'm telling you right now, if I'm the Orioles and I have my current roster as is and get a chance to get Shohei Ohtani, I'm doing it.
Because you have the only way you're doing it is if you have an opportunity to go to the playoffs and be in the World Series, right?
And if they're within 2 or 3 games or 5, if they're within 5 games of the Tampa Bay Rays come August, I am on the phone with the Angels saying, what do you want for Ohtani? Let's go. And you know you're not going to sign him long term unless he loves it here. But, man, you get a chance to go to the World Series with Shohei Ohtani. Your fan base, that Camden Yards would be packed every freaking night. PNC Park for the Pirates packed every single night.
August 1st is the deadline, by the way.
So July. Come second week. Where are you the second or third week of July?
Yep.
If you're within 5 games and you're a small market team and you got a chance at a 2.5-month rental, 4 or 5 players for a 2.5-month rental, do you do it?
Could you imagine on that pitching staff with Tampa Bay?
Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And let me tell you something. If they do get Shohei Ohtani, Tampa, for 2.5 months, and they don't sell out the ballpark every night, they don't deserve to have a baseball team. I just want that said. Okay.
Still on the record, that's the worst place ever to see a baseball game, including Oakland.
It is. All right. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers. We got into a whole little thing there. I have to add that to the baseball segment. I'm about to go do a lot of editing. I'm about to go do 3 or 4 hours of editing, maybe even more. I'm going to upload the Wes Goldberg conversation today. You'll get that dropping this afternoon. For my baseball people, I'm going to cut up all the baseball talk that we just did, the segment plus this little thing at the end, and I'm going to upload that to its own segment. I'm going to make a video about the conversation. I forget what it is. I have the time written down. I got to go remember what it is. You're going to get a couple social media posts today too. So hopefully nobody recorded me saying the Knicks and 5 because I never said that.
These guys did.
Never said that. Never said that.
It's on the YouTube link.
I love you, bro. Dude, here's the thing. All right, for those of you who are still watching, thank you for still watching. I'm about to just kind of give you a little insight. I am hosting the show, trying to be in the conversation. I am paying attention to the chat, or trying to as much as I'm able to. And then I'm like trying to look up stuff so that I'm making, when I'm talking, I got the numbers next to me. I can look it up. I'm constantly updating Twitter to see if any news breaks all the time. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, like I was having a conversation in this moment with West about next week and him coming on. It can get a little spacey at times. So I thank Nando Talk on Tuesdays, Cameron here on Thursdays, and Jason on Fridays, because it can get a little crazy sometimes. And so today my mind definitely spaced out, and I apologize to the listeners, and I apologize to you because it was.
Well, thank you for watching, everybody, with Stephen D, home of the Knickerbockers.
No. See, it is Clock Blockers, and it's Heat and 5. Make sure y'all know that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow's Spread Kindness Friday. Jason Sarney will be on with me. We're going to break down a lot more stuff. Talk about some Dolphins Wire articles that came out this week. And we're going to discuss the Dolphins in more detail. A lot more Dolphin talk tomorrow for all my Dolphins fans. Going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. Follow me at Stephen D, SKPL, Spread Kindness, Positivity, and Love. Follow Cameron at Cameron954 and also at East 32 Dolphins Tailgate on Twitter. And
Instagram,
be on the lookout for new stuff to drop today on Miami Sports Music's YouTube channel. All right? We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Peace out.
Coach, he holds the gift. He knowing when to go with fit. So we knowing when to switch. This year we got the golden pick. Time to see what that pick about. Bad vibes get sent out. Only fans up in this house.